The Lion King 2019 is one of the most embarrassing pieces of garbage I've ever watched. And what makes it extra embarrassing is that they already had the blueprint for a great film, but unfortunately every attempt at updating and improving upon the original only made it much, much worse. It's kinda sad that so many people see this as just the same movie but with different animation, because to ignore the gigantic differences between these two films is to also ignore what made the first film so successful in the first place. This is not just about the remake being different or unnecessary. The issue is that every single choice being made in this film is one that completely misunderstands why the original was the way it was. And let's remember that this film is not attempting to be some wild new reimagination of this story. It instead presents itself as essentially a shot-for-shot remake for modern audiences. Hey, you love The Lion King and it's an essential part of your childhood, right? Well, here's The Lion King. The director of this remake, Jon Favreau, had previously remade Disney's The Jungle Book, and its overwhelming success wound up kickstarting this endless barrage of Disney remakes we're seeing today. Now, when it comes to The Jungle Book, at least the remake didn't feel completely unjustified. Not only did the original film leave plenty of room for improvement, but the remake was all in all a completely different movie. It was never attempting to be what is essentially a shot-for-shot remake. It essentially used the source material as a jumping-off point to tell a completely different story. The narrative and emotional goals of this film are completely different from the original, but when it comes to The Lion King 2019, the entire point is to recreate the exact same emotional experience that people felt when watching the original. Now, there are plenty of people that watched this remake and did get more or less the same emotional experience, but I find it difficult to believe that that would be the case had the original not existed. One of this film's biggest problems is that its experience is entirely dependent on the original.
Luckily, we have a great story, we have great music, we inherit all of that from the original film.
We know the characters, and we loved the characters already in the past.
The trick is to make people feel like they saw the old movie when you show them the new one. And if you show them the shots and the moments that they remember in lines of dialogue or songs, it kind of checks the boxes in their mind.
This film doesn't exist to create an emotional experience. It instead exists to remind us of the emotions that we experienced when watching the original. It is just similar enough to be able to evoke that sense of childhood nostalgia, and having Hans Zimmer recreating his original score that also dramatically helps this illusion.
Music is such an emotional touchstone, especially when it connects you to the experience of either seeing the stage show or the original film.
If you could connect, if you could make people feel something, it turns the judgmental part off.
They bring back all the memories of how you felt when you were younger watching this. There's something about music that just taps directly into memory emotion.
I've never been so emotional in my life.
No.
How'd you do that?
I think, honestly, the secret weapon is the music. Is you could put up crayon drawings and play Hans's score or those songs and you'll cry. You could have held up still images and played Hans Zimmer's score and felt almost as much as you feel from
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If the original film didn't exist, then this one wouldn't connect with very many people at all. And I'm not just saying that based off of nothing. I say that because when you really break down the differences between these two films, you'll find that it is missing all of the key choices that allowed the original to work in the first place. The opening scene is one that was used as the original trailer for both films. People were excited for the original because it brought them a glimpse of the adventure and scale of this new world.
The audience sits down, and I was going to go and let them know you're not in Kansas anymore. This is going to be different.
And I think one of the best decisions they made on this movie was to use that entire song as the trailer. The whole thing, and everyone just went, I gotta go see that.
When the trailer was released for this newest film, people were also excited, but for very different reasons.
Can't wait for my grown ass to start crying in the theater when Mufasa dies. Bring a hanky. Don't even bring tissue. You need a handkerchief.
Wow. Dude, Pride rocks. This is literally my childhood. Ugh.
I don't even have to see the whole movie and I'm already in love with it.
Dude, Rafiki! Rafiki is good. That was sick, dude!
I love Disney so much.
Hey, it's my childhood. I can't wait to be reminded of it. Every shot in this movie just looks so much worse. Why on earth is Zazu so small on the screen compared to the original? What about making it more realistic means that you have to make it less atmospheric? I don't get it. Also, everything's way too dark for no reason. It's a pretty common issue with these computer animation heavy remakes. You could argue that they're attempting to make the tone of the film appear darker and more serious, but it's also just a common way to hide imperfections in computer animation.
Rafiki really benefits from the side light. Again, when you have flat frontal light, it kind of reveals imperfections in the CG characters. Lighting is a big part of what makes the effects convincing.
And this barely scratches the surface of the issues with this film's animation. There is just so much character and purpose that is lost for the sake of quote-unquote realism. In the original, you see the animals bowing to the new king, and in the remake, it's as though they attempted to communicate that, but were like, that's way too unrealistic. Let's just have them looking at the dirt.
So what we did is we took natural movements that they might do, like to bow their head. In this case, we wanted to hold ourselves to the standard of what you would do as though this were a live action shot. So individually, these actions are very natural, and there's not a lot of expression change on their face, and here you have that beautiful side light and backlight.
Look at how expressive Zazu is when he bows in the original film, and now look at whatever the fuck this is. If you don't have the original film in mind, then it's very difficult to tell what they're even going for. Yo dude, check out my wings, aren't they super cool? Watch as I take a massive shit. The only way to tell what any of these characters are thinking is if you have the original film in mind. Yes, you are my friend and I appreciate your respect. Versus who the fuck is this weird-ass bird? I'm gonna look over there now. For some odd reason, Jon Favreau was incredibly insistent that everything in this film had to be super realistic, as if these lion characters aren't already talking and singing.
I mean, lions don't talk, from what I know, so
Just look at how vivid and interesting the skies are in the original film. It honestly looks beautiful. According to Jon Favreau, you can't have beautiful skies in a movie because it's not realistic enough. I know it sounds like I'm exaggerating or strawmanning, but this is actually what he believes.
I like to keep the skies very simple because you have to get very lucky to have a beautiful sky when you're really photographing. CG artists are tempted to make the skies beautiful, because why not? But I find when I watch a movie with a lot of beautiful skies one after the other, I'm like, that's too lucky for real photography.
I'm not sure if you're aware of this, John, but there are live-action films that have beautiful skies in them. I was able to film some beautiful skies just by dicking around with my camera filming my music video. The visuals in the original film were based off of a research trip that they took to Africa.
There's such a variety of landscape. The mountains, the rainstorms that come over. It was really refreshing to go there and see Africa up close. And all of the photographs we took, a lot of them made their way to base our backgrounds on.
I mean, these are practically photographs that we brought back with us. I remember standing out in this field, watching the rain drifting across.
Here are some images from the very first page of search results for African sky on Google Images. Clearly, it is not unrealistic for there to be beautiful skies in Africa. What is your problem, John? There's a lyric in the opening song that references the sun rolling high.
The sun rolling high, by the sun rolling high.
And this is the shot where you decided to cover the sun with clouds? The song is talking about the sun. It should be the focus of the visual. It shouldn't just be incidental. Why, John? Throughout all of the interviews and supplementary material, Jon Favreau talks endlessly about how he wanted this movie to feel like a documentary.
Well, for this specific application, we really wanted to feel as though we were filming a documentary, documentaries, and hopefully it will look like a live-action film and like a documentary.
Now, Jon Favreau's commentary track on the Blu-ray was actually recorded before the premiere of the film, so he winds up accidentally talking about everything that's wrong with the film while pretending as though they're benefits. It's absolutely bewildering hearing him justify all of these changes that make the film so much worse.
All the ways that they brought emotion, anthropomorphic emotion, to these naturalistic animals, these animals that didn't have any expression. We wanted to limit the scope as much as we could to the naturalism of the animal's behavior. It's very easy to exaggerate performances on a sequence like this, but it would feel a little bit, the physics would feel a little cartoony. And again, really no emotion in the face, which is counterintuitive if you're doing a film like Lion King, where you want the animals to express a lot of emotion.
Now, we can't have them showing facial expressions. Real lions don't do that. And what's extra stupid about this is that they easily could have given these characters more facial expression while still limiting themselves to reality. It's not like a real lion's face remains constantly expressionless throughout their entire lives. I get it, you wanted to make it look like you were filming a nature documentary, but if that's really what you wanted, then why is there even a narrative at all? Why are they talking and singing? Now, I don't even need to put audio over these clips for you to be able to tell that these characters are singing, whereas with these clips, it's legitimately impossible to tell. It just looks like they're talking like any other scene. You see, we couldn't have lions look like they're singing because they just don't do that. We had a team of experts from all over the world scientifically determine that if lions could sing, they certainly wouldn't look as though they're singing while they're singing. Haha. This is so stupid, John. The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe came out in 2005, and I don't see anything wrong with how they approached the character design of Aslan. He's still realistic looking and not overly cartoony, but the biggest difference is that you can tell what he's thinking. There's an actual character there. Not only did these emotionless character designs inspire many on the internet to attempt fixing these characters, but this film even went against its own concept art. Character designer Michael Kucha was hired for this film, and these are the character designs that he created. Apparently, these designs were not realistic enough for Jon Favreau, and it was just very important to him that you could never tell what any character is thinking or feeling. With some of these characters, the differences are pretty subtle, but they add so much. Literally, who other than Jon Favreau wanted all of the characters in this movie to be completely expressionless? How does it benefit the film to have less character and less emotion? Who is this movie even for?
I can't wait for kids to see Timon and Pumbaa. That's one of the things I'm really looking forward to tonight, is seeing kids go, what? That warthog's talking.
I'm taking my daughter to see the movie. She's almost 5 years old, and I just have no idea how she's going to react to seeing these animals talking. Yeah.
It's very strange because they're photo real.
Yeah, kids are just gonna love this movie. It's gonna be The Lion King for a new generation. You know, kids just love having zero emotion and expression and relatability in the characters that they watch. That's how kids work, right? I have to imagine that the majority of people who watched this movie were adults who just wanted to relive their childhoods. But even as an adult, this is still just weird and disturbing. When they released the character design posters, I could have sworn that they were just alternate concepts for The Witch. Literally, who other than Jon Favreau wanted this? Nothing is stopping you from making a real documentary about lions if that's what you really want. How does it benefit a musical to have less character and expression? I don't understand, John.
This is all very unrealistic. Yeah, that it lions, you know.
It's a movie. So...
What really pisses me off about this so-called quest for realism is that he just picks and chooses what it applies to in a completely arbitrary way.
Up here on the forehead, there used to be like a fruit juice creating a little mark on his head.
The fruit that gets broken open with the juice inside, when we looked at what kind of fruit that was and what was really inside of it, it wasn't filled with face paint. It was filled with a fleshy fruit. Now, we couldn't have Rafiki walking around with a stick the whole time because they just don't really do that. And even getting the lion to sit like that, that's not something you see in nature. But we felt that was a very strong visual.
So Rafiki's character no longer has his staff because monkeys don't go around carrying sticks like that in real life or something. What about literally everything else Rafiki does in the film? Do mandrills do this? Or this? Or this? Or this? Or this? You just admitted that it's unrealistic for lions to sit like this, but you kept it in the film anyway because you felt it was a strong visual. Are you implying that these shots were not also strong visuals? And because Rafiki no longer has his stick, they remove this part of the film.
Yes, the past can hurt. But the way I see it, you can either run from it or learn from it.
We can't have that because it would be too unrealistic for him to be carrying a stick. But then at the end of the movie, they give him the stick anyway.
But he had to have a stick for the fight. So we figured he kept it hidden. It's like his lightsaber.
So you admittedly made an exception to give him the stick, even though you said it was unrealistic for him to have one, because the importance of Rafiki carrying a stick for the fight scene outweighed the importance of realism. But it wasn't important enough for the entire arc of the main character?
And we knew that it was a movie that people knew very well. And if we were going to depart from it, we wanted to do it for a reason.
According to John, the significance of this pivotal scene was not enough to justify Rafiki having a stick, but just him using it to fight at the end was? These bullshit decisions would be a lot more forgivable if you were just consistent.
Here was a difficult conundrum, because if you remember from the old film, he was painting, and we felt Rafiki would very easily turn anthropomorphic, and it would blow the illusion of him being a real primate.
But he just painted at the very end. Look, what is he doing now then, John?
To create some...
As if the choices weren't already frustrating enough, for some reason this film insists as though it's live action.
You know, the task at hand was to make this movie appear to be a live action film. I was trying to pursue an approach that made this film feel less like an animated movie, more like a live action film.
Everyone keeps calling this a live action movie. How have you been describing it?
I think it's an entirely new way of experiencing film.
Well, people often ask me if it's live action or if it's animation, and I guess the best answer is it's both.
Well, this is actually considered a live action film.
Really? How? Why?
The VFX supervisor for the film says that he didn't consider the remake to be an animated movie because of how the director incorporated the VR techniques that fall into rules of traditional live action filmmaking.
It's a new genre that I think we need to find a special word for it because it isn't animation.
This is a computer animated film. You used computers to animate the film. A photorealistic painting is not suddenly considered to be a photograph just because it looks realistic. It is still a painting because they painted it. Perhaps this is all just some obnoxious marketing ploy to sell how super realistic everything looks.
The CGI they're using now is so real, it looks like you're just watching real animals.
Those pixels look just like animals to me. John showed me part of the movie, and I could not tell the difference.
Can't wait. The Lion King is in theaters Friday. And full disclosure, Disney is the parent company of ABC News.
First of all, this doesn't look like real life. This looks like animation. This is an animated movie. Second, there are plenty of shots in this movie that just look bad. This tree looks like shit. This bush looks like shit. This looks like shit. This bush looks like shit. Wow, it's so real, John. I could have sworn these were real animals talking and singing. Wow. The animation in the original film is honestly pretty timeless, mostly because it's not trying to look exactly like real life. The animation in this film, however, already feels a bit dated. Even if there weren't shots in this movie that just looked bad, it's just going to look worse and worse with each year that passes. I'm honestly pretty sick of the idea that by default computer animation is seen as an improvement upon 2D animation.
There's a lot of new technology available that allows us to depict this story in a much more photoreal way.
And sometimes using new technology can make it exciting and different and appealing to younger people who might not be as open to the older film techniques.
There's a nostalgia that I feel for the original because it's I think the most successful 2D animated film. The sophistication of the audience of what they want to experience visually has moved on from that. So anything 2D is being made for nostalgia, but it's not part of the mainstream animation language.
It's just crazy to see how far like animation has come.
The updated animation is like insane.
My time here.
That budget at Disney went up.
The only reason that anybody has the idea that 2D animation is a thing of the past is because people just don't make 2D animated movies anymore. Thanks a lot, Pixar. You ruined it for everybody. I'm seriously hoping for some kind of resurgence in traditionally animated films because there's honestly nothing wrong with the format. They just decided to stop putting their efforts into them and then used that as evidence that nobody wants to see them. It's kind of annoying and sad, especially considering that every studio seems to be on some kind of gigantic nostalgia binge right now. Anyway, regardless of which animation style you prefer, releasing a computer-animated movie under the pretense that it's supposed to look realistic does not all of a sudden make it live action.
Would you consider this a live action film or not?
I do believe it's a live action film.
This is the live action version of The Lion King.
It's trying to replicate real animals. Yes, this is live action.
I say it's live action. If there's people in motion capture suits, I'm gonna call it a live action film.
I guess it's not animated, so if you have no other term for it, yes, it's a live action movie.
Live action, it's way more advanced than traditional animation.
Throughout the marketing, they pretend as though this is some gigantic, groundbreaking technical achievement because they were using physical objects to move around virtual cameras in a 3D space.
The other interesting thing that makes it look live action is we took all of those digital files, brought them into VR, and set cameras inside VR. So it felt like we were making a live action film.
This space that's filled with grids that hold virtual reality sensors. We make a live action film around the animation.
But this was already done 12 years before.
The first time we've really been able to use a real camera in a CG environment. We've came up with a technique that basically do motion capture on the camera and shoot live, real-time camera moves. With this camcorder, you could walk up to the penguins or follow them or zoom in on them or whatever, and every movement you're making with the camera, whether you're walking or bouncing up and down as you walk, those motions were being captured in real time. We wanted to shoot the film like a documentary.
The 2007 film Surf's Up did pretty much the exact same thing, so why on earth are you treating this as some sort of technological breakthrough that's so advanced that it unironically changes the genre of the film? I don't remember the Surf's Up team being obnoxious enough to claim that just because they used real camera movements, it was therefore a live-action film. Guys, this is so groundbreaking. We did the exact same thing as Surf's Up, except this time we also used VR headsets.
When you have like 5 of us in our VR sets scouting and we're all together, I'm like, oh, is this a nice shot? Caleb, come over here. What do you think of this? Oh, I like this. Oh, but how about that?
Congratulations, it's a live action movie now, I guess. And at least in Surf's Up, there was actually a point to it because the entire film was presented as though it were a mockumentary, which is a very clear and obvious intent that you don't need to watch the behind the scenes footage to understand. As much as Jon Favreau talks about making this look like a documentary, the end product certainly doesn't look that way. This intent is only apparent if you watch the special features and listen to Jon Favreau insisting that this is the case. It wasn't advertised as a documentary-type movie, and it certainly doesn't feel like it when watching the film. Why would you try to make it look like a documentary when you're doing a shot-for-shot remake of a film that was never trying to look that way? Maybe if you took out the talking and singing and replaced it with a British man narrating the whole thing, then yeah, sure. If you wanted to make it look like a documentary, then why didn't you do that? Seems like your entire concept was pretty broken from the get-go. Throughout the film, they give artificial back and side lighting to characters so that they pop out from the environment. Everybody's got this weird outline to them and it looks very distracting. The characters look less like they're a part of the environment and more like they were just green screened into the scene. That's not what a documentary looks like, John. Those are intentional choices that you made that wound up making this look less like a documentary, so why would you do that, John? Something that really, really bothers me about this film is the music. And I'll be talking about just how they butchered each and every one of these songs. Some are more offensive than others, but let's just go through them as they appear in the film. As the song starts out, there doesn't really appear to be anything wrong with it, but as soon as the lead vocals come in, holy crap, is it terribly mixed.
From that day we arrived.
The vocals are just way too loud and it's really jarring as soon as they appear. So let's actually look at the waveforms in comparison here. Look at this. Look at the waveforms here when the lead vocalist comes in. Really not all that different. She's like a part of the song, right? She's complementary to the song. Whereas here, look at how low the song is, and then look at how high the waveforms are for the vocals. So when the vocalist comes in, it's like she's not even a part of this song. The song's not even about the movie anymore. It's like about the singer. It doesn't sound like she's a part of it. It sounds like she's like the focus. I don't want to be thinking about the singer. I want to be thinking about the world. John, John! Throughout the track, they change parts of the melody for absolutely no reason, which would be fine if it worked better, but it doesn't.
There's more to see than can ever be seen. There's more to see than can ever be seen.
So as the note is climbing up,
More to see than can ever be seen.
it's leading into the next section, the next chord, where the higher notes come in. The implication in terms of how it's written musically is that there is more to see. It leaves it open for the next notes to show up. But then you change one note, and all of a sudden, it doesn't have that same feeling anymore.
Than can ever be seen.
Because typically, when you go higher and then lower again, that's considered a sort of resolution that implies feelings of conclusiveness. There isn't any sort of like, oh, it's leading into something. There is no sense of like wonder and discovery and excitement. All of that is gone, and it was just one note that was changed, but it does a lot. And you have to understand why notes are being changed before you change them. You have to understand why it was written that way in the first place in order to create something that's musically effective that represents the scene and the intended emotions of the scene before you do it. John. They do this with every song in the film, and it just reminds me of people doing their own weird versions of the national anthem.
Through the night, that our flag was still there. Oh, say.
You don't want to just recreate those songs. You want to reinvent them. That's a great idea. You also don't want to be that person who like sings the national anthem crazy. Like it's a song we all know. Exactly. Yeah.
Even ignoring the song itself, all of the other audio is just so much less impactful than the original. Just listen to the audio in this shot with the birds and the elephants.
To take in here, or to find than can ever be found.
There is so much presence and atmosphere, and it feels really breathtaking. In the remake, they decided to remove all of the elephant noises aside from the footsteps, which somehow sound worse and less impactful, and to compensate, they added a bunch of feather-ruffling noises for the birds as they run past.
More to find than can ever be found.
Even the visual elements of this shot are significantly less impactful than the original. Notice the absence of the gigantic dust cloud that the elephants are creating with their footsteps, and notice how incredibly lightweight and dainty the elephants' footsteps are compared to the original. I should also point out that the percussion in the song is almost non-existent now. It's kind of there, it's just way too low in the mix.
More to find than can ever be found. More to find than can ever be found.
Where's the fucking atmosphere? You'd think for a film where music plays such an important part that they would put a bit more effort into the mixing process. Remember that the soundtrack for the original Lion King was one of the best-selling soundtracks of all time. So if you're going to recreate the soundtrack, why would you do so in a way that sounds like it's completely missing important elements? What about the triangle is so offensive that it doesn't exist anymore? It is a small instrument, but it greatly adds to the song's rhythm. What was so wrong with it that you decided to remove it? Now, some of you might think that I'm being a bit nitpicky here, but I kinda disagree. It's important not to downplay just how essential it is to get the music right, especially in a film like this. And it seems like I'm not the only person that feels this way. Elton John, who wrote the songs for the original film, says the new version of The Lion King was a huge disappointment to me because I believe they messed the music up. He also says that it didn't have the same impact and that the magic and joy were lost. Elton John didn't oversee any of the music for this film aside from a new song that they added into the end credits, and who knows, perhaps if he did, then it wouldn't be as much of a downgrade. Instead, this film decided that this job would be much better suited for none other than Pharrell Williams.
The only thing I did was just I was kind of like the MSG. I was kind of like the fake element that was put into it to just bring out a little bit more flavor, but...
The team is back together, everybody, because the Amazing Spider-Man 2's soundtrack was just so great.
He lied to me, he shot at me, he hates on me.
Black, 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 black. They told me I had to wear black tie. I got black on right now. I'm black. Black, 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 black. 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 What? Black?
Pretty much, yeah.
Black. Hey, you ever thought about this? You know 95% of the universe is black?
What's particularly frustrating about these song changes is that Hans Zimmer seems to be pretending as though having more money automatically makes the songs better by default.
If the first one was myself and Lebo and a small tiny village, this one was Lebo, myself, and a whole city.
You thought the music from the original was good? Well, now there's like more shit going on. There's like 5 drum kits playing the same thing.
That budget at Disney went up.
Not only that, but the interviews and behind-the-scenes footage are constantly insisting that the original soundtrack was unfinished.
Also, Hans Zimmer wanted an opportunity to really get in there and finish it, because the original, it was something where they had a schedule and a budget. And so when they came together to do this, Hans was like, let me really get in there and fill out the orchestra in the way that I didn't have the opportunity to do before.
He always wanted the songs to be the way they are in the remake, and the only reason they weren't that way in the original is because they didn't have the budget or something.
And what did you do differently this time, and what did you want to keep the same from the 94 score?
Fixed a few things from the 94 score. You know, everybody wants to go and fix a couple of things.
So you're saying the triangle was a mistake? Like you didn't mean for it to be in the original at all, and the technology just didn't exist to not have it in there? What's extra hilarious about this completely dishonest marketing gimmick is that Hans Zimmer already released a fixed version of the score in 2015. It was known as the Lion King Legacy Collection, where he completely remixed the score and re-recorded many of the instruments. They brought out certain sounds that were once buried in the original mix to make them more noticeable. Now, I still prefer the original soundtrack, but there's nothing really all that offensive about the changes made in this Legacy Collection. It still retains the spirit of the original, and it wasn't sloppily thrown together like the 2019 soundtrack. And hey, what do you know, the triangle is still there too. Every issue that exists in the 2019 soundtrack is not an issue in the 2015 Legacy Collection. Why are you justifying the 2019 soundtrack by saying you wanted to fix a few things when you've already done that? Are you trying to fix the fixed version now or what? Man, it's so weird that they wouldn't mention the Legacy Collection soundtrack. I wonder why. Suspicious. To make things worse, if you listen to these new songs with headphones, there are obvious mistakes that are pretty apparent. Made even more apparent when you isolate the vocal track. Just listen to how badly the microphone peaks in this take. And even though they tried to cover it up in the full mix, you can still hear it. Absolutely disgusting.
Disgusting!
I was also able to find out why the last line of the song sounds so weird. It turns out they just digitally extended the note instead of recording another take. They did not give a single fuck about the music. Yeah, the original Lion King had a schedule and a budget, so it was really unfinished. This one, we didn't have a schedule or a budget. We just had infinite time and money, so everything sounds great and perfect in the way that it's supposed to. The original Lion King just didn't have the money or resources to make those irritating microphone peaking sounds or those weird artificial digitally extended notes in the vocal performances, but now we do. This is the way it was meant to be heard. This is what we wanted the whole time, and you're stupid for liking the original one more because that one's unfinished and this one's perfect. You are a liar, John. You are both liars.
You know, there's the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
No, I didn't try to fix it. I just tried to, I didn't try to fix it. I tried to just perform it. Fixed a few things from the 94 score. You know, everybody wants to go and fix a couple of things. No, I didn't try to fix it. I just tried to, No, I didn't try to fix it. I tried to just perform it.
What a fucking liar, dude. What a fucking Weasley little liar, dude. What a fucking Weasley little liar, dude. Holy shit, dude.
Excuse me.
Holy
Sorry.
fucking
I'm out of
shit,
control.
dude.
I apologize for that.
Literally lying. Still lying to his audience.
I'm really getting the impression that Hans just doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about anymore. Maybe you should lay off the booze for a bit.
Well, Lebo is, Lebo is my original inspiration, I mean? People don't really, now it seems normal, but back then, when we did the original one, when I was saying to them, what I would love to do is to start with a completely African voice. You don't understand what it's saying in the black. I think of Pharrell not only as he thinks I'm his big brother, but I don't think of him as my little brother, and he makes sure we serve the task properly. So, truly an amazing experience.
So now I guess we're moving on to the introduction of Scar, the most butchered character in the entire movie.
Look how they massacred my boy. You're also the voice of Scar in The Lion King, and Disney is planning a live-action remake. What do you think?
Yeah, I look forward to seeing it. They haven't approached me yet. I don't know who else will play Scar. Maybe some whippersnapper.
In the original film, Scar had a playful vibe to his character and was often humorously sarcastic. When he laments about not being king, he does so in a way that could be described as passive-aggressive.
Life's not fair, is it? You see, I shall never be king.
In this newest film, his character is entirely stripped away and replaced with a stereotypical, boring villain.
Life's not fair. Is it, my little friend? While some are born to feast, others spend their lives in the dark.
There's nothing interesting about his mannerisms or the way he communicates. He no longer sounds sarcastic or playfully passive-aggressive.
Oh, now look, Zazu, you made me lose my lunch.
Every word that comes out of this character's mouth sounds like it's gonna be written into a manifesto before he shoots up a school.
Zazu, you've made me lose my lunch.
To me, a villain always only works if he's also interesting. You're trying to come up with a very whole personality. You can have him beat people around and have him call people names and just show him doing evil things, but he has to be an interesting character.
I have to assume that they changed his character because they found the original to be too over the top, but is this character not also ridiculously over the top?
Are you hungry, Zazu? Perhaps we could have a bite together.
In the original film, you understand why Mufasa would still want to maintain a relationship with his brother. There's obviously bits of tension and resentment between the two of them, but he's not constantly flaunting this non-stop I'm gonna murder everyone vibe. It is this playfully sarcastic nature that helps the story to work. There's no reason why these characters wouldn't leave Simba alone with his uncle. They just see him as sort of a passive-aggressive drama queen.
And to make matters even worse for the little lion who would be king, Simba thinks this conniving carnivore is his friend.
Everything you need to know about how Mufasa views Scar can be interpreted in this scene. Just look at his facial expression here.
That hairball is my son.
Mufasa's reaction is akin to being annoyed and irritated. Come on, Scar, why do you always gotta be so dramatic? Grow up. We get absolutely none of this in the remake, partially because the characters no longer have facial expressions, but also because it's just terribly written. It's really difficult to understand why they haven't just completely cut ties with him. He is very obviously and clearly mentally disturbed.
I was first in line. Well, I suppose you'd have found out sooner or later, you being king and all.
There is no playfulness in the tension between him and other characters. It is just 100% on the nose, I am planning to kill all of you attitude. Jeremy Irons' performance in the original film is one of my favorite voice acting performances ever. He didn't just read the lines as though it were any other film. He read the lines as though he were a lion.
I despise guessing games. I quiver with fear. Long live the king.
He has a way of playing with the words and twisting them, and it is all interesting. Every line that Jeremy would give me was interesting.
I felt that Andreas had caught all the wickedness and all the humor that I wanted to have in him. And more.
Even if you completely remove the visual aspect of this film, you can tell from the performance alone that he's playing a fierce and animalistic character.
Never ever mention that name in my presence. I am the king. But this time, Daddy isn't here to save you. And now everyone knows why.
It is the hyenas who are the real enemy.
It was their fault. It was their idea.
As you wish, Your Majesty.
He truly gave it his all and brought so much expression and personality, whereas Chiwetel Ejiofor's performance is just some random British incel guy.
As you know, I have tremendous respect for the Queen.
Chiwetel's a new voice, and Scar has a new look.
Here you have, with Chiwetel, someone who's doing something different, but still evocative of the old version of Scar.
Mufasa and Simba are gone, which means I am your king.
Is there any reason why Jeremy Irons couldn't have reprised his role? Especially considering they were fine doing that for James Earl Jones? And unlike him, Jeremy Irons' voice sounds like it could still pull off the character.
They haven't approached me yet. I don't know who else will play Scar. Maybe some whippersnapper.
Now, I don't want to shit on Chiwetel Ejiofor too hard because I do think he's a great actor. His performance in 12 Years a Slave is truly harrowing, gut-wrenching, and impactful. I think most of this just comes down to what they tried to make this character in concept, which there doesn't really seem to be much of. At no point does the vocal performance indicate that he's playing a lion character. Apparently, Jon Favreau wanted him to be as boring as possible because that's more realistic or something. Yeah, lions don't talk in real life, but if they did, then they probably wouldn't have much character or expression or something, so let's get rid of all of that. Scar in the original film was a likable character. It was part of the reason why he was successfully able to manipulate others in the story.
An elephant graveyard is no place for a young prince. Oops.
This story is built around this character being intelligent and manipulative. There is a level of charm and sophistication to his personality that he uses to his advantage. This character has zero charm and sophistication. How is this character supposed to be able to manipulate anybody? At no point does he even pretend like he doesn't constantly want to kill everyone. Everything about this character is just way too fucking obvious, made even more obvious by the obnoxiously overbearing music.
The way I see it, you and I are exactly the same. We both want to find a way out.
In the original film, this scene did have music, but it was so much more subtle and interpretive.
Life's not fair, is it?
Clearly, the success of the original proves that there is no need to beat us over the head with how we're supposed to feel, so why do it now?
The king approaches! This is not a drill! His Majesty has requested an audience. Upon his entrance, you will rise and genuflect.
Hey, just to make sure you understand, Zazu's supposed to be a funny character. He's not supposed to be really creepy and disturbing. He's supposed to be funny, okay? You got it? Got it. Are you trying to compensate for how unfunny John Oliver is?
I had a cousin who thought he was a woodpecker. He slammed his head into trees, and our beaks aren't built for it. He was concussed.
You're terrible. Go eat a bag of dicks.
Some of the casting decisions in this movie are so embarrassingly transparent. It's like they believe that the extent of Rowan Atkinson's performance was just haha funny British man. Who's a funny British man that's popular right now? Oh, I know.
John Oliver. He was born to play Zazu.
Scar, no.
Perfect. I think we could move on.
The problem is he can't fucking act. He sounds no different than he does on his talk show.
Donald Trump views the truth like this lemur views the Supreme Court vacancy. I don't care about that in any way. Please f*** off, I have a banana.
When Rowan Atkinson performed as the character Zazu, he didn't just do his regular voice.
Oh, sorry to bust your bubble, but you two turtle doves have no choice.
If you listen to any interviews of Rowan Atkinson from the 90s, you'll understand that he doesn't normally talk like Zazu.
I suppose that I'm just an actor. Probably at heart, rather than a comedian.
He did this crazy thing called acting, where he was able to perform as a character.
My name's Richard Head. Hello.
To you, Baldric, the Renaissance was just something that happened to other people, wasn't it?
Leave it to The Lion King 2019 to replace a talented character actor with a fucking talk show host.
And with an attitude like that, I'm afraid you're shaping up to be a pretty pathetic king indeed.
With a
attitude like that, I'm afraid you'll be a pretty pathetic king.
It is nothing short of insulting to imply that this is a suitable replacement. At no point in the original film do I not see the actual character, but in this remake, all I can see is John Oliver. It makes it impossible to experience the actual character. It's like he didn't even try.
Your fellow Brit John Oliver has been cast in the remake. Any advice for him?
Advice? just do your best, John.
Do your best, John.
Just do your best.
If you're asking me whether I lived as a bird for 6 months, no.
Sire, hyenas in the Pride Land.
All I have is this voice, louder or softer.
So now we are introduced to Mufasa, and the way he's introduced is just so obnoxious and over the top.
Well, look who's come down to mingle with the commoners. Sarabi and I didn't see you at the presentation of Simba.
The way it's presented feels like Jon Favreau was expecting the audience to stand up and cheer at this point. Come to think of it, this ties in pretty heavily with how Jon Favreau treated Rafiki and his stick.
But he had to have a stick for the fight, so we figured he kept it hidden. It's like his lightsaber.
It's pretty clear that he's just treating this like another Marvel movie. Damn, this character's back that was advertised as being in the movie anyway. Aren't you surprised?
Wow. Dude, Pride rock!
These choices are entirely reliant on people having seen the original film. It's so cheesy and unnecessary. Also, we just saw Mufasa in the opening scene. This isn't even really his introduction, so why even do this? Now, James Earl Jones is, I guess, the only voice actor that reprised his role for the film.
How about James Earl Jones coming back to do Mufasa again?
Incredible.
Because it was just so important to get James Earl Jones, but not important at all to get Jeremy Irons or Rowan Atkinson or anyone else.
You got James Earl Jones back for this. Was there any temptation to bring anyone else back from the original? Was it important to kind of, apart from that, to kind of detach yourself from what had come before?
This just goes to prove the old show business adage, everyone is replaceable except James Earl Jones. Hakuna Matata.
Now, unfortunately, James's voice is not at all what it used to be.
Zazu, take Simba home.
Oh, Dad, can I come?
No, son.
Dad, let me come. I can help.
No, son, you stay with the other cubs.
So now Mufasa's character just sounds like a grandpa.
One day, it'll be my son who rules. Morning, Zazu. You have the morning report. That's very good.
It's been 25 years since the last production. It's still the same guy, but it's a slightly different take on Mufasa.
His voice is different now and better for this film. If you listen to this compared to the old one, you'll see his voice actually has a much more resonant quality now, a little bit of a more emotion in it from living a whole life.
Simba, come to me. You can do it.
That sounds great from over here. It's perfect.
Now, despite John trying very hard to convince us that it's actually better when Mufasa sounds like a geezer, there are parts of this film where they clearly repurpose takes from the original film's recordings.
Hold on, Simba. I'm coming, Simba. Hold on.
I think even like the Simba...
Simba.
That's the same.
Simba. Hold on.
It's literally the same.
I'm coming, Simba. Hold on, Simba. I'm coming, Simba. Hold on.
I thought the geezer version was better, so why are you using takes that were recorded in the 90s, John?
His voice is different now and better for this film.
So yeah, pretty much any line in this film where Mufasa doesn't sound ancient is one that I believe to be an old recording. Even if his voice sounding older wasn't an issue, there are countless lines in this film that he delivers just so terribly.
Is that a challenge? Is that a challenge? You deliberately disobeyed me. And what's worse, you put Nala in danger. You deliberately disobeyed me. And what's worse, you put Nala in danger. Everything the light touches is our kingdom.
Wow.
Everything the light touches is our kingdom.
You ruled all of that?
Yes.
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 You want to do another take, James?
Yes.
Actually, you know what? Never mind. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yes.
Part of the genius of the casting in the original film is that these two characters were able to sound like lions.
Don't turn your back on me, Scar.
The incredible power and presence of their voices brings so much impact to the scene.
His voice gets into these such deep, deep registers that he almost really literally sounds like a lion. I mean, his voice rumbles.
Look inside yourself, Simba.
His voice is so commanding that when he says anything, when he says, "Can I have a tissue, please?" everyone sits up and takes notice.
That's very good.
Mufasa's voice was strong, mighty, and commanding, not weak and confused.
Stampede in the gorge. Simba's down there. Simba.
Stampede in the gorge. Simba's down there.
Simba?
Simba? It's so bad. What a little rascal. Simba.
Simba?
He doesn't sound concerned at all. It's like he doesn't even know who Simba is.
Simba?
Simba! And yeah, obviously the lack of facial expression in the animation certainly doesn't help. Something that I'd like you to keep in mind while I'm showing clips of these films side by side in this review is to pay attention to just how obnoxiously overbearing the music is in the remake. The original film still had music, but it was complementary to the film. In this remake, it is clearly being used as a crutch to distract from how terrible the performances and visuals are. I'll be showing more clips of these films back to back in this review, so seriously, keep that in mind because it is honestly embarrassing.
Stampede in the gorge. Simba's down there. Simba.
Stampede in the gorge. Simba's down there.
Simba?
Simba! Just blast them with the nostalgia music and they won't notice how bad it is.
You could put up crayon drawings and play Hansa's score or those songs and you'll cry.
In the original film, there were a few points where they added lion sounds on top of the vocal performances in order to enhance certain moments in the film.
Silence!
Hey, come on, we're gonna shut up!
But not only was this done incredibly sparingly, but the voices themselves were so deep and powerful that they were never used as a crutch. In The Lion King 2019, they add several additional post-production sounds to compensate for the lack of impact in the voice performances. If you're watching with a home theater setup, you can really tell when they artificially bass boost the syllables in their sentences.
I wouldn't dream of challenging you again.
At other points in the film, it sounds like they play multiple takes simultaneously. Just pay attention to the words precious and prince here, and you'll know what I mean.
Or don't you remember? That is until the precious prince arrived.
Just like a documentary, am I right? It is fucking ridiculous just how hard they are compensating for the lack of power and impact in the vocal performances.
Well, I suppose you'd have found out sooner or later, you being king and all.
It sounds super lame and artificial, which is not a good thing for a film trying to be realistic, John. Now, with a film advertising itself as a shot-for-shot remake, you'd think that they wouldn't be able to massively fuck up the writing, right? Well, as it turns out, they did! John and his team went through the script and made tiny changes here and there, and in their minds, they believe that they're communicating basically the same information, just in a different way. Unfortunately, by doing this, they removed necessary information about the characters and their relationships without even realizing it. Here's Zazu's first line when he confronts Scar in the original film.
Didn't your mother ever tell you not to play with your food?
What do you want?
And here's Zazu's first line in the remake.
The king approaches! This is not a drill! His Majesty has requested an audience. Upon his entrance, you will rise and genuflect.
Now, if you're Jon Favreau, you're probably thinking, what? It's basically the same thing and serves the same purpose. You got Zazu showing up for his first line, he interrupts Scar, and the mouse runs away, and then they have a little scuffle. But what Jon does not realize is that the way this scene is written serves a lot more purpose than what he notices on a surface level. It is because of the way that these characters interact that we're able to learn about their relationship. The first words they speak to each other in the film clearly establish their dynamic and how they feel about each other.
Didn't your mother ever tell you not to play with your food?
What do you want?
It is clearly communicated that these characters have a history with each other. Their passive-aggressive communication makes it clear that they've interacted with each other before and are fed up with each other's attitudes. In the remake, it's unclear if these characters have even seen each other before. The way Zazu introduces himself feels no different than how he would to any other random animal in the Pride Lands.
The king approaches! This is not a drill!
His Majesty has requested an audience. Upon his entrance, you will rise and genuflect.
We are losing important information about these characters that Jon Favreau didn't even realize was there in the first place. And as the film continues, it becomes increasingly apparent just how little Jon Favreau understands about the writing in the original film. In this scene, there's some important information that needs to be communicated so that the audience better understands the story and the characters' relationships. Here's how this information was presented in the original film.
Well, I was first in line until the little hairball was born.
That hairball is my son and your future king.
The reason why this line doesn't feel like an exposition dump is because there's an actual reason why he's saying it. Mufasa says that Simba is his son and Scar's future king, not because it's something that he already knew that he just felt like telling him again. He said it as a response to Scar insulting Simba and calling him a hairball. Mufasa is reinforcing this information as a way to get Scar to show some respect, and through that, the audience members now understand these characters' relationships. In The Lion King 2019, they got rid of the hairball line for whatever reason and just decided to throw in this information at the end of the scene. And because there's no logic to the way it's written, Mufasa just tells Scar this information that he already knows for absolutely no reason.
When it comes to brute strength, I'm afraid my big brother will always rule. Not always, Scar. One day, it'll be my son who rules. Simba would be your king.
Yes, Scar, it is true that you are upset that you will not be king, and you would be king if Simba wasn't about to be king, but Simba is about to be king, and he is your nephew, and you are his uncle, and you are also my brother, and I am Simba's father. It's just an awkward, clunky exposition dump now. What's the point of making the movie feel more stupid? The first movie was successful without that. Why? Next, we get a short scene of Rafiki painting. This character isn't funny or charismatic anymore. He's just really creepy. He honestly sounds like something out of a horror movie. So now we're introduced to young Simba, and wouldn't you know it, all of the character and personality are completely gone.
Dad, come on, Dad. Dad! Come on, Dad, let's go. You said I could patrol with you today. And today has started.
Young Simba is voiced by actor/singer J.D. McCrary. His singing is not terrible, but his acting sure is.
In addition to being a bit of a YouTube sensation as a singer, he collaborated with Donald Glover on the last Childish Gambino album. He has so much personality in the way he sings it, and it's nice to have the opportunity to have actors who are both the performers and the singers. Give you some different direction from last time, because you're going to be at the top of a really high rock, and there's going to be wind blowing, and you're going to be really kind of scared.
What are we doing? There's nothing up here.
He's just another one of those cute kids that won't have an acting career as soon as they're not a cute kid anymore. People are generally willing to overlook terrible performances as long as the kid's cute. I'm just wondering how that turned into a voice acting role. The original Lion King had 2 separate actors for young Simba, one that could sing and one that could act. Is there any reason why you couldn't have done the same for this film? You know how sometimes you can tell if a person is smiling just from their voice performance alone?
Right here, you can hear O'Hara smile in the studio. Really think about that. You can hear her smile.
That it's him till chapter 3.
J.D. McCrary's performance in this film is one where I can tell he looked relaxed and bored the entire time. Every line of dialogue is embarrassingly reserved and held back.
Come on, Dad, let's go.
Oh my gosh, Jimmy Vomit.
Come on, Dad, let's go. An elephant graveyard? Whoa. Whoa.
Part of acting is that you need to let go of your ego and truly give it your all, and this is not something that J.D. McCrary is cut out to do. Once again, not his fault. I just don't think that he should be given tasks that he's unable to achieve. Once again, they change around the dialogue and wind up inadvertently making the story worse. You see, in this film, Simba was led to believe that he would be going out on patrol with his father, and I guess Mufasa just lied to him.
So what's first? Give orders for the hunt? Chase away evil intruders?
Yes.
Dad, we're going the wrong way.
Maybe Mufasa just changed his mind or something.
Dad, I'm not supposed to go up here.
Since when is Simba concerned about what he's not allowed to do? Isn't the whole point of his character that he's a childish rebel that wants to do everything his way? Hence the whole musical number and the plot device with the elephant graveyard.
An elephant graveyard?
These small changes in the dialogue make it abundantly clear that they do not understand the original story. It's like they don't even notice when they write something that contradicts the entire character. Why? I should point out that in this scene we hear some more microphone peaking in this totally finished and polished film. Just listen to the first word that Simba says in each of these sentences.
All of this?
Ugh.
You roared. All of that?
All right, one more time.
All of this?
Ugh.
You roared. All of that?
$260 million budget, everybody.
Yes.
So now we get to the morning report. In the original film, Mufasa gives a warm greeting to Zazu and seems eager to hear what he has to say.
Good morning, sire.
Good morning, Zazu.
Checking in with the morning report.
Fire away.
In this remake, Mufasa seems completely bored and uninterested.
Sire! Morning, Zazu. You have the morning report.
Now, you might be thinking that we don't necessarily lose anything from these changes, but you're wrong. In the original film, Mufasa only loses interest once he notices that Simba is distracted.
What are you doing, son?
Pouncing.
Let an old pro show you how it's done.
The pouncing lesson comes from Mufasa deciding to momentarily pause his responsibilities and duties for the sake of his son. He noticed his son was pouncing, and he then decided that his regular responsibilities could wait. He consciously decided to stop what he was doing in favor of what Simba wanted to do. This is a way that the writers communicated that Mufasa is a loving father that deeply cares about his son, which is a necessary thing to do if you want his death to have an emotional impact in the story. In the remake, it is Mufasa who gets bored by the morning report, and it's his idea to start pouncing.
The buzz from the bees is that he left doing fun.
He no longer stopped what he was clearly interested in doing for the sake of his son. The way it's presented, it's as though he never wanted to listen to the morning report in the first place. You don't understand what you're doing, John. Believe it or not, this isn't even the worst version of this scene that exists. In the 2003 special edition DVD, they decided to add in a new song. The animation is distractingly different, and they replaced the voice actors for both Simba and Zazu. The tone of the song is obnoxious and completely clashes with the rest of the film. It's fucking terrible. And if you just try to play the film like normal from the incredibly dated DVD menu, it plays the version of the film with this song in it. You legitimately have to go to the audio options to select the original movie. Suffice it to say, Disney is well versed in making terrible changes to their films for no reason. Some of these changes are more noticeable than others. There was a controversy over the word sex being spelled in the dust for one frame in this scene, so obviously they changed that. They completely changed the animation for the crocodiles in this shot, even though there wasn't really anything wrong with it. It's kind of annoying that countless films that we watch are not actually what was originally presented. Everybody's familiar with this issue in Star Wars, but it happens to a lot more films than we realize. One of the most annoying examples of this is for Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead, and there's an entire video on the YMS Highlights channel explaining why that's terrible. Thankfully, when it comes to The Lion King, the permanent changes that exist don't really ruin the film for me. And honestly, with the changes they've already made, I'm a bit confused why they didn't fix some other issues. There's a few moments in the movie where they didn't color in the character's eye properly. It only lasts for a few frames, but it happens more than once. And when cross-referenced with the Laserdisc copy, this doesn't appear to be a new issue. So when you're already completely redrawing shots and characters, why didn't you fix the eyeballs? Did you not know that this was an issue? You've released this movie like a bajillion times. Why haven't you fixed it? I mean, if we're fixing things anyway. Regardless, I cannot tell you how thankful I am to be able to watch this film without that shitty morning report song. What were they thinking? So Zazu gives the morning report, and it's just a bunch of stupid John Oliver bullshit. In the original film, Zazu was actually expressive and seemed interested in what he was saying, but in this movie, it's just some stupid John Oliver bullshit.
The birds are tweeting at 4 in the morning. I'm like, birds, we get it.
And because of how they restructured this scene, Zazu is never informed about the whole pouncing thing. So instead of Mufasa asking him to turn around, he's just already turned around for no reason. He's just performing shitty stand-up while facing away from them for no fucking reason. Wow, I can really tell how much respect Zazu has for the king. He can't even fucking face him.
Cheetahs never prosper. That's what I say. Do you get? I'll say it again. Cheetahs never.
Okay, so in this version, Zazu just gets angry and fucking leaves. This is a pretty toxic work environment, Mufasa. Zazu clearly did not take that well, and you just don't even give a shit right now.
That's very good.
What an asshole. Anyway, Zazu comes back to tell him that there's hyenas in the Pride Lands.
They're on the hunt.
Where's Sarabi?
And then Mufasa fucks off and tells Simba to stay with the other cubs.
I am not a cub.
In the original film, we fade to Scar, who is wallowing in his own misery before Simba interrupts him. In the remake, we fade to Zazu, dropping off Simba to play with the other cubs. And he just fucks off before making sure that he actually goes there. So Simba gets distracted by a bug and fucks up real bad, and then, oh, Scar's there, and they start having a conversation. Once again, this film decided to remove crucial information about these characters. When Simba goes out of his way to find Scar and excitedly tell him about how his father showed him all of Pride Rock and that he's going to be king, we learn that Simba actually likes him. And despite Scar clearly being annoyed with Simba and loathing each reminder that he'll be king, he still pretends to be on good terms with him because he knows he can better manipulate him. In the remake, Simba didn't seek out Scar to tell him something he was excited about. He quite literally falls into the conversation with him, and immediately Scar just tells him to fuck off.
Go back to your den, Simba. I don't babysit.
And despite there being zero sarcasm or subtlety in him telling Simba to get the fuck away from him, Simba just decides to hang around anyway. In the original, it was clear that Simba didn't understand he was upsetting his uncle, but in this one, I guess he just decides to be an asshole. What, you want me to leave and play with the other cubs like Zazu should have made sure that I was doing? Well, fuck you, I'm gonna stay here. I don't like you. I'm gonna stay here anyway. Remember that this is the same character that said this line?
I'm not supposed to go up here.
Alright, just do whatever the fuck you want, I guess.
When I'm king, I'll have to give you orders. Tell you what to do. How weird is that?
You've no idea.
I don't understand how Scar is able to manipulate a character that apparently doesn't even like him to begin with. Everything in this original scene is so clearly communicated. Scar clearly picked up on Simba's disappointment that he's not allowed to go to the dark, shadowy place, and he used that to manipulate him.
Far too dangerous. Only the bravest lions go there.
Well, I'm brave.
At this point now, Simba is prodding Scar for more information, while Scar is pretending that he has no intentions to reveal it.
An elephant graveyard is no place for a young prince. Oops.
In this remake, what a surprise, everything is much more poorly communicated. At no point is Simba manipulated into prodding Scar for more information. He's just told not to go to the elephant graveyard, and that's it.
An elephant graveyard is no place for a young prince.
An elephant graveyard? Whoa.
Scar doesn't even pretend to be withholding information before telling him. He just tells him as though he was saying anything else. If I was watching this remake without having seen the original, I'd probably be really fucking confused right now. Like, the basic ideas of the scene are technically still there, but the intent of the characters is just so terribly communicated.
You've been there?
We've all been there. And it's no place for a cub.
Oh, you're telling him it's no place for a young cub? Okay, well, I guess he's probably not gonna go there based on what we saw earlier.
And remember, it's our little secret. Your Majesty.
Ugh. Just like Oldboy 2013, this film manages to take much longer to present the same scenes while somehow giving us less information. This movie's like half an hour longer. You'd think we'd be getting more information each scene, not less. So now we are introduced to young Nala, played by Shahadi Wright Joseph. And this is probably the least offensive casting choice in the whole movie. She's someone who can actually sing, and she's someone who can actually act. And before she was even cast for this movie, she was playing Nala in the Broadway version. It's honestly a pretty sensible choice for the role. Like, sure, there's nothing really all that special about her performance here, and she does have some poorly delivered lines.
Pinja, again.
But seeing as how she never had that issue working with Jordan Peele, this is much more likely a Jon Favreau issue. Either he has no idea how to work with actors for animation, or he doesn't give a shit. Yeah, that's fine, don't worry about it. It's gonna look super realistic and we'll throw in some nostalgia music. It's fine, whatever. Anyway, Simba wants to go to the elephant graveyard with Nala, so he tells his mother Sarabi that they're just going to the watering hole, and she's like, okay, I guess you can go to the watering hole.
And one more little thing. Zazu will be going with you.
Zazu.
Zazu. Zazu. Zazu.
Oh no, not Zazu. I don't even know who that is. I've only ever heard of Zazu. You know, the character from The Lion King, Zazu, not Zazu. If there's one more thing to respect about Shahadi Wright Joseph, she's the only one out of the three of them that actually pronounced it Zazu.
Zazu? Zazu goes, or you don't.
It's almost like the director of the remake doesn't actually give a shit about the original property. Suspicious. This feels like another Aang versus Ong situation. Why are you pronouncing it Zazu, Sarabi? Your husband doesn't do that.
Morning, Zazu.
The only two people that are pronouncing it properly were a part of previous productions of The Lion King that had nothing to do with Jon Favreau. I wonder why. Anyway, now Zazu is escorting them to the watering hole. His dialogue in the first movie communicated a sense of duty and obligation.
Step lively. The sooner we get to the waterhole, the sooner we can leave.
And his dialogue in the remake communicates a sense of idiocy and incompetency.
We have an imminent threat. Something is approaching. Oh, wait, scratch that. That's my own shadow.
I fail to see how this is any kind of an improvement, because now I'm just wondering why they would want him to be looking after the cubs in the first place. Anyway, in the original, Simba whispers to Nala to tell her that they're actually going to an elephant graveyard, and they try to keep quiet so that Zazu won't hear them.
Oh, just look at you two, little seeds of romance blossoming in the savannah.
This conversation where he informs them of their arranged marriage is one that took place because he noticed they were whispering to each other. He assumed their whispering was for romantic reasons, and that's why he flew down to talk about their romance. In the remake, there is no strategic whispering, and Zazu comes down to comment for literally no reason.
Oh, how lovely it is to see the future king with his future queen.
Oh, how lovely it is that you two are next to each other right now. This is the first time I've noticed this today. Once again, J.D. McCrary pronounces Zazu's name wrong, and Shahadi Wright Joseph pronounces it correctly.
That's not gonna happen, Zazu.
Never. We are never getting married, Zazu.
A monarch who ignores tradition. A monarch who ignores tradition.
Oh god. I have the Blu-ray in my computer right now, and I'm going through the official subtitles because I have no idea what the fuck Zazu's saying here.
Getting married, Zazu.
A monarch who ignores tradition.
Is he saying, and one who ignores tradition?
Another good Norse tradition. And what a good Norse tradition.
And what a quick Norse tradition.
I wonder who ignores tradition.
But none of this makes any sense to what he's responding to.
A monarch who ignores tradition.
A monarch? It's so off! It's so off what I thought it was! A monarch who ignores tradition. Nobody had the right answer in chat!
A monarch who ignores tradition.
I would never be able to find that. So now we're approaching the Just Can't Wait to Be King song. In the original, there's so much character found in the back and forth banter between Simba and Zazu.
Not so long as I'm around.
Well, in that case, you're fired.
Nice try, but only the king can do that.
In the remake, it doesn't even seem like they're talking to each other at all.
Where to go, what to do, and even who to marry. There will never be a king like me.
Simba, you can't escape your destiny.
What the fuck do you mean?
Simba, you can't escape your destiny.
Like, yeah, I get that this line is to prime us for themes that are more thoroughly explored later in the film, but what do you mean by that, like, right now? It sounds like a threat.
Well, I'm not letting anyone tell me where to go, what to do, and even who to marry. There will never be a king like me.
Simba, you can't escape your destiny.
Anyway, I'm sure I don't even need to mention just how fucking bland and lifeless this sequence is compared to the original. You see, you can't have interesting visuals because none of that exists when lions are singing songs in real life. In the original, this sequence basically functions as a music video, and in the remake, it's just really fucking boring. What's hilarious is that John and his team clearly thought they were being creative here.
How could we create the same feeling that you had from the old movie without going so stylistic? We used the animals to create this really cool environment, because to these little cubs, those animals are the environment. And so you see the legs of the animals almost become like forests to these little characters. It would come up with all these little gags in much the same way it would have been done in Walt Disney's time. Hopefully feels just like the old song.
They just run around and stand on a rock. It looks like shit. First they run through flamingos, and then they run through zebras, and then they run through ostriches, and then run through rhinos, and then they run through elephants, and then they run through ostriches again, and then they run through giraffes, and they lift their heads one at a time. Oh my god, so creative. And then they run through meerkats. So creative, John. And then the lyric comes up and they say, standing in the spotlight. Did you see? The giraffes, they parted ways and revealed the sun, which is like a spotlight. And the characters are now standing in the spotlight. That's the lyric of the song is the spotlight. That's so creative. Oh my god. And I haven't even talked about just how much they ruined the actual song. It is this musical number that really showcases my issues with J.D. McCreary's performance. Like I said, he is a talented singer, but not so talented at acting, which would be a non-issue for him singing any regular song. The problem is that the songs in this film exist as musical theater. The objective of singing a song in the musical is not just to hit the notes, it is to perform the notes as you're singing. This song is about Simba's excitement towards being king, and in the original you can hear that in the performance.
I'm gonna be the main event, like no king was before. I'm gonna be the main event, like no king was before. I'm brushing up, I'm looking down, I'm working on my roar. I'm brushing up, I'm looking down, working on my roar.
It's kind of sad that Shahadi Wright Joseph doesn't have more lines in this song because she never felt held back or unenthused.
Kings don't need advice from little hornbills for a start.
It's almost like she has a background in musical theater or something. J.D. McCreary is certainly singing the song, but the excitement in his performance just isn't there. And in exchange for that, we're given more stupid, show-offy national anthem style bullshit.
Just can't wait to be king.
Also, what the fuck happened to the mixing? By the end of the song, the lead vocals are almost completely drowned out by the other tracks. Like, you legitimately have to make a conscious effort to pick out J.D. McCreary's voice in the song. It's like the exact opposite problem as the opening track, except this time the song is actually about the character singing the song. So if you were going to have a loud vocal track, it should be this song, not the first one.
Oh, I just can't wait to be king.
There's like audio peaking in this song. That's probably why they turned it down, actually. That's probably why he's so low in the mix, is because he's peaking.
Oh, I just can't wait to be king.
That's why he's low in the mix. They just tried to hide it. Instead of re-recording for like a day. Everything is so wrong. What the fuck are these goddamn stupid-ass faces they're making at the end of the song? What is this? Are they cringing? It doesn't look like they're singing. What the fuck is this? Now, while J.D. McCreary has no sense for acting, apparently John Oliver has no sense for music. Although, to be perfectly honest, I think it's much more likely that the other John is to blame for this one. Zazu's lines in the original film were delivered in a rhythmic way because they're a part of a song, and I guess neither of the two Johns clued into this. Notice how rhythmic the delivery of Zazu's lines are.
I've a long way to go, young master, if you think.
If you think.
Oh, young master, if you think.
And then they just forgot that in the remake.
You have rather a long way to go, young master, if you think.
They missed it. They missed it. John wasn't aware. Pharrell Williams wasn't aware. Nobody was aware that that was the original intention of the line. Sad. In this shot, Zazu's lines are spaced neatly in between the singing lines of Simba and Nala. The way this is written has Zazu frantically trying to get a word in while Simba and Nala cut him off with their lines. There is a logical flow and pacing to the dialogue here that fits with the music in the scene.
No one's saying do this.
Now, when I said that,
no one's saying be there.
What I meant was.
No one's saying stop that.
In the remake, once again, neither of the two Johns seem to grasp this concept.
No one's saying do this.
Now, when I said that,
no one's saying be there.
What I meant was.
What I meant was. It no longer feels like he's being interrupted in any way. He just decides to stop in the middle of his sentence at completely arbitrary moments.
Be there.
what I meant was...
It honestly feels like John Oliver's lines were read from the script without even playing the song as they recorded. They probably thought, oh, it's just words. It's not like he's actually singing. We don't have to play the song as he's saying these lines. They're just words. It's not singing. It's just words. And if that's not the case, then I guess John Oliver has approximately zero sense of rhythm.
This is where the monarchy is headed. Count me out!
If this is where the monarchy is headed, count me out!
I'm sorry, did he say county out?
County out! County out! County out!
There's no M sound at all.
If this is where the monarchy is headed, county out!
I'm so tired. I'm so tired of all of this. If this is where my life is headed, county out. Now, when Disney released the official soundtrack about a week before the film, I figured I'd give it a good old hate listen. As expected, it sounded soulless and overproduced, but what I wasn't expecting to hear was obvious mistakes in the recording process. I shit you not, they legitimately tuned a note in the vocals to the wrong key. Way is that's the note it's supposed to be, is F sharp. Instead, they pitch corrected it to a G. You hear that? The key of the song is in F sharp. So like it would sound better, it's correct if it's in F sharp, but the note being sung was pitch corrected to the incorrect key. Wow, Disney, wow. Now, if you listened to this and didn't hear anything wrong with it, that's fine. Not everybody has the ear for music, and maybe you can get a job at Disney someday. But to everyone else, this sounds embarrassingly wrong. And let me be absolutely clear here that this is not some sort of intentional choice to be creative or something. This is so objectively the wrong note that out of every single language track for the film, this is the only one that did this. Yep, this is totally exactly how it's supposed to sound, and it's just a wild coincidence that every single other language track got the note wrong and also in the same way. This is a $260 million musical that doesn't give a fuck about the music. After realizing that Jon Favreau's version was the only language track that sang the wrong note, I decided to order the Japanese Blu-ray of the film to see how the rest of the movie compared. After all, Japan is a country that actually cares about animation, and because of that, their voice acting roles are typically given to voice actors instead of talk show hosts and celebrities. Unsurprisingly, there are quite a few improvements here.
出口を探している。もちろん大切な王子様が生まれるまでのことだが。私に背を向けるな、スカ。
Wait, hold the fuck up. Mufasa actually sounds like a lion again.
お前はわざと私に背いたな。
ごめんなさい。
太陽の照らすところすべてが王国だ。
これ全部父さんの国？
そうだ。
Both Mufasa and Scar have naturally deep and powerful voices again. Wow, crazy. Whoever would have thought to do something like that? Now, the Japanese dub certainly isn't perfect, and there's a few points where the auto-tune is really obvious. But at least they knew how to properly set up a microphone so that it didn't peak during the recording process.
これが全部僕のものになるの? All of this?
Overall, this is honestly the best version of The Lion King 2019. So if you ever feel like watching this movie, just make sure to get the Japanese dub, I guess.
Scar?
Anyway, let's get back to comparing Jon Favreau's version to the original Lion King so I can complain about how all the life and character and personality are sucked out of every single frame.
Alright, it worked! We lost him. I am a genius. Simba, we really lost him. I know what you're thinking. The future king is a genius.
Yup.
Pinja again. Pinja, again.
Yep. I feel like the most effective parts of this video have been just me showing clips one after the other. It really is night and day just how much is lost in every single element of this film. Once again, they added more dialogue to make the film more stupid.
We found it, Nala. You know what this means? It means we can go home. It means they won't treat us like cubs anymore.
Ugh. Wait, isn't this place supposed to be like dark and shadowy or something? Anyway, now it's time for the hyenas to show up, and in the original movie, the reveal was actually pretty clever.
I laugh in the face of danger.
You see how Simba laughing led into the hyenas laughing, and hyenas are known for laughing? It works, it makes sense. Let's see what the remake did.
Danger? Ha! I laugh in the face of danger.
Okay, so it looks like they did not take the opportunity for Simba's laughter to lead into the hyena laughter. I guess the hyenas are gonna show up doing something different then, right?
Now the sun is going down, and I'm not just gonna sit here and...
No, it looks like the hyenas are still introduced with their laughter. They just decided to do it 10 seconds after Simba's laughter so that it doesn't really work well anymore. Man, I just love how every single change in this movie has so much thought behind it, and it's purposeful. It just makes the film better in every way. You can tell that they really understood the original and were like, man, that's why they did that, but we're gonna do it differently because there's even better reasons why we're doing it our way. It's just, it improves the film. I love it. It's just so good. I want to die in Minecraft. Bliat. What's going on with these cubs? Are they scared? Are they bored? I mean, they look bored. I guess they're bored. What a creative choice for this scene for Simba to be bored. It really shows how brave he is. So now we're introduced to the hyenas, and I'll try to keep this short because it's not really that important and this review is long enough already. Basically, they decided to turn Shenzi into a completely serious character with no comedic traits whatsoever, and they completely got rid of Bonsai and Ed in exchange for Kamari and Azizi. It's 2019 and you're not allowed to show mentally handicapped characters or Mexicans. As far as the casting goes, I don't have any strong feelings one way or the other. Eric Andre and Keegan-Michael Key are playing completely new characters, and although I hate the direction they took Shenzi's character, Florence Kasumba certainly works for what they're trying to do. It is really amusing to me that Eric Andre is in this film at all. Out of every single person involved in this film, he certainly seems the least corporately puppeteered, so much so that he honestly seems really out of place here. I can only imagine what horrific, intrusive thoughts must have plagued him during the red carpet premiere.
Beyonce, she's trying to trim down on that baby fat. Saw her without her shirt on. I was like, ooh, who's that woman with 6 tits like a dog?
Anyway, the hyenas want to eat the cubs, and then Zazu shows up and he's like, don't do it, and then there's a really lame chase scene. Now, I definitely wasn't expecting this remake to include the birdie boiler or anything like that, but I don't understand why they had to restrict this entire chase scene to just a small tunnel underground and then they're out and it's over. Seems like they covered about 20 feet and then wound up right back where they started. What's so wrong with showing them running around and experiencing more of the location? I'm sorry, you just can't have an interesting chase scene that's not realistic, dummy. You gotta have a chase scene with shitty sound effects and characters screaming with their mouths closed. No, I did not add that sound effect. And no, I did not add Simba screaming there. This is actually a part of the movie. I know it seems really cheap and bad, but this is the movie. Very realistic, I know. Now, if you're a fan of the original Lion King, then you probably remember Hans Zimmer's score during this scene. In The Lion King 2019, they decided it would work a lot better with something completely cheesy and generic.
Don't let them get away!
Seriously, why though? Was this you fixing the score by just making it a completely different song? Or sorry, you didn't try to fix it, you just tried to perform it. Is this you performing it then? Is that what you're doing? Anyway, they do the thing where Simba roars and they're like, that was really lame, and then it's a big roar, and then they're like, who the fuck was that? Big change. I'm sorry, John, but it's not very realistic for the hyenas to believe that the little lion cub made the big lion noise when the big lion that made the noise is way over the fuck over there, and it would only sound like it's coming from way the fuck over there because that's where where the big lion is, and maybe if you weren't trying to make a realistic movie, then it would work just fine, because a lot of movies do shit like that, including the original movie, and nobody gives a shit. But because you were saying you were trying to make something super realistic, I have to assume that it's just a gigantic glaring error on your behalf, you fucking asshole. Anyway, now Mufasa's really disappointed in his son, and you can definitely tell that by looking at the character's emotions in this scene. Even completely ignoring the difference in facial expression, the emotions are so much more clearly communicated in the original film. Just pay attention to the character's posture and body language here. You'd think that a movie that absolutely refuses to show facial expression would jump at the opportunity to show emotion in other ways. Look at how low their heads and tails are, their ears are pulled back, they're walking slowly, and here they're just fucking prancing along. They're just walking like normal. Look at them go! Why are you playing sad music when these characters clearly aren't sad? Why? Anyway, instead of ending the scene on Scar, it ends on Shenzi because Scar wouldn't be realistic or something. I don't know. Once again, there's opportunity for some real character and emotion to be expressed through the body language, but they just decide not to do it. Cool. In the original film, Mufasa tells Zazu to send Nala home because he has to teach his son a lesson. They do the same thing in the remake, except in the middle of it, Zazu tries to convince Mufasa otherwise because Mufasa was a child once also.
Don't be too hard on him, sire. I remember a cub, a certain headstrong cub, who was always getting into scrapes.
In the original film, Mufasa angrily calls over to Simba.
Simba!
And in the remake, he sounds less angry and more confused.
Simba!
Simba! Just look at how the characters react to their name being called. In this film, Simba is clearly startled, upset, and on edge. And in the remake, it's like, what? What's over there? Oh yeah, it's my dad! We then get the iconic shot where Simba steps into the paw print of his father's. In the original, Simba almost stumbles into it because he wasn't expecting the ground to be lower while he was walking. After realizing it's his father's paw print, he looks up sadly for a moment and continues to walk towards him. In the remake, he doesn't stumble or anything. There's zero communication as to why he would stop and look at his father's paw print, but whatever. Oh, what's that? Oh yeah, it's my dad! Cool! Part of what makes this scene so brilliant in the original film is just how naturally the character's emotions change throughout the scene. Mufasa starts out clearly angry and enraged. As he composes himself, he communicates his disappointment while remaining stern to emphasize the seriousness of the situation.
You could have been killed. You deliberately disobeyed me. And what's worse, you put Nala in danger.
And immediately from this, we can see Simba is now panicking and devastated. And directly because of Simba's reaction, Mufasa now changes his tone to be more calm and unthreatening.
I was just trying to be brave like you.
I'm only brave when I have to be.
It is at this point that Mufasa challenges Simba's preconceived ideas about bravery and being king, and this combined with the more calm and gentle tone from Mufasa allows Simba to react in a more naturally playful way. And at this point now, Mufasa notices the smile on his son's face and realizes he can't stay mad at him. After all, the only reason he was angry in the first place was completely out of love for his son.
I think those hyenas were even scared.
'Cause nobody messes with your dad. Come here, you.
What we have just witnessed here is both of these characters breaking down each other's emotional barriers over the course of the scene. And not only was this incredibly natural with each emotion influencing the next one to take place, but they did all of this while simultaneously introducing ideas and themes that are essential to the experience of the film. It's just really well written and well presented. Let's see what the remake did.
You deliberately disobeyed me.
I know.
So yeah, the entire range of emotion from both characters is now just monotonous and bored. They also changed the dialogue to make it seem like Mufasa's less concerned about Simba and more concerned about his bloodline.
Do you understand what's at stake? You jeopardized the future of our pride.
Remember when Mufasa did things out of love for his own son? Nah, that's too unrealistic. I think John might have some daddy issues. Why would you change it so that Mufasa is not doing things out of love for his own son? Yeah, in the first movie, Mufasa did things out of love for his own son, but we decided that that wasn't realistic enough because no father realistically loves his son. They don't even fucking look at each other. How does that add anything to the scene? They cannot build off of each other's emotions because the emotions aren't there.
I think those hyenas were even scared.
'Cause nobody messes with your dad.
I think those hyenas were even scared.
That's because nobody messes with your dad.
How am I supposed to care about these characters and their relationship when they don't even care about each other? What the fuck? At the end of the scene, Mufasa tells Simba to look to the stars if he ever feels alone, and that the kings of the past are watching down on him.
Those kings will always be there to guide you. And so will I.
And in The Lion King 2019, they decided to add some extra bullshit.
And so will I.
But I can't see them, Dad.
Keep looking, son. Keep looking.
Dad, I don't literally see kings. Those are stars. So now we're back to the hyenas and it's nighttime. In the original film, we get a humorous scene with some pretty iconic animation and clever visual gags. The humor in this scene works very naturally, and these characters are lots of fun to watch. And in the remake, it's just really boring and forced. It doesn't feel natural. It just feels like they're trying to be funny.
Mufasa is strong. Like, way stronger than us. Please, give me some space. What? You could lay anywhere in this cave.
Ha ha ha, so funny, ha ha.
Good posture. Next time I see Mufasa, I'm gonna teach him a lesson he will never forget. Well, you're in luck. He's right behind you. Mufasa?
Alright, I know it's really confusing because of just how poorly communicated every single thing in this movie is, but in this film, Scar and the hyenas do not know each other. So whereas in the original, there is a clear relationship and dynamic between them, in this film, they are just now meeting for the first time. This is also why the last scene ended with Shenzi instead of Scar. They just wanted them not to know each other until this exact scene for some reason.
That's not the king.
And remember, in the old one, he already was conspiring with them. In this one, he's presenting a scenario, and he's pitching them on allying with him in a conspiracy against Mufasa.
You see, Disney's original plan was to completely remove the Be Prepared song, and nobody outside of Disney knew that that was going to happen until February of 2018, when Elton John said there's going to be 4 of our songs in the film from the original: Can You Feel the Love Tonight, Hakuna Matata, I Just Can't Wait to Be King, and Circle of Life. Now, it doesn't take a genius to notice that he listed every single song he wrote for the original except one, so naturally some articles started popping up and people around the world chanted in unison about how disappointed they were, which is understandable. I mean, not only is it the villain song, but to many people it is the best song in the movie.
When you're doing a Disney movie, a villain song is a big important part. It's really when they lay their cards on the table.
To anybody paying attention, it was pretty obvious why Disney didn't want the song in their remake.
One of our great storyboard artists, Jorn Klubian, took the material, and he and Andy Gaskell, our art director, were really inspired by Leni Riefenstahl kind of fascist documentary stuff.
Well, the idea is when we introduced the yellow lights, it was to give you the colors of like an old newsreel, so that we colored everything in kind of these old browny yellows, like an old newsreel.
Yeah, a lot of debate about the scene in previews, whether it was appropriate and how much we would lean in the direction of this kind of fascism on parade kind of thing.
The original song has goose stepping, and that's a Nazi thing, so to prove to everybody how not Nazis we are, we're gonna remove the entire song. I know it sounds really, 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 really dumb, but trust me that this is the most likely scenario. Every single one of their recent remakes is constantly attempting to address the criticisms of the original. If there's a female character in the movie, they're gonna get more lines, their own song, and they're gonna be a badass girl boss.
I'm not bossy. I'm the boss.
Encourage girls to lead. Take the pledge at bandbossy.com.
Shenzi is now a badass girl boss, and the reason she wasn't in the first movie is because they were friends with Scar, and so he was the one that was controlling things, but now she answers to no one, so she's strong and independent. Yay. I'm so glad that Jon Favreau cured sexism.
I think you want a rock she can get up on that you could go over to, and then you see all the lions behind her, and they all the lionesses sort of step up, and you could tell that they'll follow her.
It was important to Jon Favreau that Nala and that the females in this film were heroes.
The original was definitely weighted more towards the male roles, and certainly in the culture of a lion's pride, the female lions play a very important role. And then that roar kind of caps it. So now you've really stacked up you've moved all the troops into place.
Are you with me, Lions?
We're trying to build a moment here.
Now, there's nothing wrong with being socially conscious and having that reflected in your art, but you have to remember that Disney is not doing this because they care about social issues. They are doing this because they're a soulless corporation that believes that being woke will earn them more revenue, hence why they don't put gay characters in their films. You see, you're not allowed to show gay characters in movies in Russia or China, and Disney all of a sudden stops giving a shit about being woke if it means they're making less money by doing it. So any mention of anything LGBT in their films is only ever done so in a way where it can be easily edited out for Russia and China. You have to remember how soulless and calculated Disney is as a company. It is not a coincidence that the only gay actor in the original Lion King was replaced by another gay actor. When planning out their newer films, they are constantly trying to preemptively dodge any potential criticism that they would get for not being woke enough. So yeah, it's pretty fucking obvious that they were always going to remove at least parts of this scene, and perhaps they thought they were playing it safe by removing the song altogether. So when Disney realized that people were disappointed that the song wouldn't be in the movie, they decided to shove it in at the last minute and half-ass the entire thing.
First, it was a monologue that was written by Jeff. And then we started to say, well, could we do this with a song?
It was already a song. Of course you could do this with a song if it was already a song. What are you talking about?
This was the remnants of the original monologue, and then Hans built a whole musical take on this song.
So yeah, basically now instead of having a musical number, it's more like the lead up to a musical number.
It's an amazing song, Be Prepared. And I don't know if you can prepare for it in a way.
It's not really a song anymore, it's just kind of a weird chant.
Be prepared. Be prepared!
Be Prepared is the song. How did you prepare?
Ah, interesting.
Eventually there's a tiny bit of singing, but then it ends abruptly.
Be prepared!
And there's the imagery that we wanted to capture from the original. So even though we deviated quite a bit, we wanted the end of it to feel similar.
For most of the song, he doesn't even sing. He just talks rhythmically with some shitty new lyrics.
Mufasa is yesterday's message. A clapped-out, distracted regime.
Yo guys, Mufasa sucks, am I right? His entire argument is that if they help him become king, then he'll let them eat wherever they want, because Mufasa is the only thing stopping them from doing that. But like, why would they trust him? He just waltzes into their territory at night complaining that they didn't kill Simba.
And yet I send 2 little cubs your way, and they come back alive.
This is the same day that Mufasa showed up and basically tried to murder a bunch of them. The hyenas are not informed on the relationship between Scar and Mufasa. How do they know that Scar's not secretly on Mufasa's side? How do they know Scar will even fulfill his end of the deal after he becomes king? He's not really offering them anything up front. Why on earth would they trust this stupid, scrawny, mangy, dumb shit lion that's so stupid that he immediately surrounds himself with creatures that can eat him right now? There's literally nothing stopping them from doing that, but his vague gestures of Mufasa bad are just so persuasive that they're all super into it. Eventually they reincorporate lyrics from the original song, but the delivery is just so awful.
Prepare for the coup of the century. Prepare for the murkiest scam.
Might I remind you that he is trying to persuade these characters who he has not met before to potentially die for his cause. He's not singing or talking anymore, he's just cringe whispering.
For the coup of the century. Be prepared for the murkiest scam. Prepare for the coup of the century. Prepare for the murkiest scam.
The way Chiwetel does Be Prepared, like, really blows my mind.
He's
every
so
time.
good. Yeah, Chiwetel.
I watch that and think, like, wow, he's such a better actor and singer than I am.
This is like when you're a kid and you're pretending to yell, but you don't want to wake up your parents, so you go, ah. Yeah, clearly this crackhead cringe lord over here knows exactly what he's talking about. He is clearly the one to trust about how to get more food. You know, I've never met this guy before, but he really won me over when he said beep. None of this makes any sense, John. It made sense in the original because they were friends. He brought them food, they trusted him. They joined his fascist uprising because they already trusted in his intelligence and abilities as a leader. There was so much character and expression in the original. How on earth do you think that this is even remotely comparable? What's really funny about this is that even Disney admits that this is nothing like the original song. It is the only song in the soundtrack that specifies it as being the 2019 version. Apparently not even Disney could pretend as though this song is anything like the original. Yeah, we know it sucks ass, but it was either this or nothing, so sorry. Perhaps they recorded a full version of this song and just didn't have time to animate it. Like, because it was thrown together at the last minute, they were forced to settle on this half-assed song, but not really a song.
This is one of the last sequences to be finished.
Either way, it is incredibly obvious that this scene was just thrown together. It feels so fucking lazy that it probably would have been better to just not have a song at all. It stinks. So now we're getting to the stampede scene. Why is this so ugly? Nothing looks beautiful in real life. I live in Los Angeles. Why are the wildebeest even there then? They were eating in the original film. What are they eating now? Nothing? Dirt? What? Anyway, in the original film, Scar tells Simba that he has a surprise for him.
What is it?
If I told you, it wouldn't be a surprise now, would it?
And in the remake, Scar tells Simba that he brought him here so that Simba can give a surprise to his dad.
But he's the king. What could I give him?
Your roar.
My roar?
Yes!
Okay. Holy God, this is so awkward. Now, once again, the remake massively misinterprets the original film with zero understanding of why it was written the way it was. In Papa John's mind, he apparently thinks that Scar's entire plan revolves around Simba believing he caused the stampede, which would mean that his plan involves Simba surviving the stampede?
This gorge is where all lions come to find their roar.
All lions? Even my dad?
In the original film, the plan was to kill Simba.
No, fool, we're gonna kill him. And Simba, too.
Scar didn't bring Simba here with the intention of getting him to believe that his roar caused the stampede. The only reason that Scar even told Simba to roar was the result of a conversation that only happened because Simba was about to follow Scar out of the gorge.
Just stay on this rock. You wouldn't want to end up in another mess like you did with the hyenas.
And just between us, you might want to work on that little roar of yours,
He instead manipulates Simba with shame and embarrassment over needing to be saved by his father.
You know about that?
Simba, everybody knows about that.
And when he does tell him to work on his roar, it is not with the intention of making him believe that he started the stampede. He doesn't tell Simba to work on his roar right here, right now. He just says you might want to work on it. This is essentially a power move from Scar, who is proud of himself for how easily he can manipulate Simba. Because of Simba's young age and blind trust in his uncle, he never questions how Scar could have heard his roar. And Scar absolutely loves that he can say whatever he wants to Simba without him realizing that he's being manipulated.
Will I like the surprise?
Simba, it's to die for.
When Scar realizes that only Mufasa was killed in the stampede, he then continues to manipulate Simba purely opportunistically.
What have you done?
There were wildebeest and he tried to save me. It was an accident. I didn't mean for it to happen.
Scar is now using this opportunity to make Simba believe he's responsible for his father's death. He doesn't say anything about his roar, he just tries to convince him purely out of the fact that his father died trying to save him.
The king is dead. And if it weren't for you, he'd still be alive.
Now, lucky for Scar, the roar likely made it a lot easier for him to manipulate Simba this way, but it was never a part of his plan, and it's incredibly unlikely that Scar was even aware that there was a roar. Scar gave the signal for the hyenas to attack well before there was any roaring from Simba. It very clearly was not a part of his plan. Scar wants Simba dead. He knows that he can't do it himself, otherwise the other lions would probably smell Simba's blood on him. Why do you think he's doing this whole stampede plan in the first place instead of just eating him or something? He sees an opportunity to prevent Simba from running back towards the other lions and he takes it. And just like earlier, he achieves this by making Simba feel guilt and shame.
What will your mother think?
And now that Simba is running in a direction away from the other lions, Scar tells the hyenas to kill him. You know, the thing that the stampede was supposed to do. Now, some of you might be thinking, Adam, why is any of this important? What if Jon Favreau didn't massively misinterpret the original film and just felt like Scar's plan should be different in the remake? Well, the reason why I do not believe that this is the case is because the way the remake is written now massively contradicts itself. Like, if Scar's entire plan revolves revolves around Simba believing he's responsible for his father's death, then isn't this the worst way to make him believe that?
This gorge is where all lions come to find their roar.
Like, he's not just telling him to roar here for a while to keep him occupied, he's telling him to roar so loud that it escapes the gorge.
Refused to leave until his roar could be heard above the rim.
All the way up there?
That's when you know you found it.
Why would Simba believe it's his fault if he's only doing exactly what you're telling him to do? In the original film, Simba felt as though he was responsible for the stampede because the roar is something that he decided to do. He was told to sit on this rock and wait so he wouldn't wind up in another mess like he did with the hyenas. When Simba leaves the rock to go roar at the chameleon instead, he is consciously disobeying what Scar told him to do. The reason Simba feels guilt over his father's death is because he believes it is the result of his own decisions. But in this film, Simba doesn't do anything that Scar doesn't explicitly tell him to do. In the 2019 version, Simba didn't start roaring loudly in the canyon after being told to do something else. He only did this because he was told to. Why would Simba feel responsible if you've taken away all aspects of perceived responsibility? What don't you understand, John?
That makes no sense!
And I don't even understand why this is a part of his plan in the first place if he's just going to send the hyenas to kill him anyway. Like, why even do all this roar bullshit?
Watch this.
Also, what's Scar's excuse for fucking leaving? In the original movie, he said he was going to get Mufasa for a surprise. He just fucking leaves. You'd think Mr. I'm not supposed to go up here would wonder why this is the first time he's ever been left unaccompanied without adult supervision. Hey Simba, just roar really loudly in that direction up at the edge of the cliff over there. Don't worry about me, I'm just gonna go. Okay, bye-bye. So now Simba is alone roaring at things, and his roar sounds very unrealistic. It doesn't even sound like the same species. What exactly is that sound supposed to be, John? Anyway, Simba notices the start of the stampede, but in the remake he doesn't seem to be all that concerned about it. I'm bored. Why are you running so slowly? Is Simba having fun here? I can't tell because there's no emotion on his face. Yay, wee, yoo-ha! All you gotta do is change the music and suddenly it's no different than the Just Can't Wait to Be King scene. Also, apparently this is another song that Hans Zimmer really didn't like the triangle in. You see, when we recorded the original Lion King score, there was some masked bandit that kept sneaking in and playing the triangle. Fortunately, now we have the technology to prevent unlawful triangle players from entering the studio. Anyway, Simba runs around and then hides under a rock, and then we get this amazing conversation.
Stampede in the gorge! Simba's down there!
Simba?
Simba! So now Simba has abandoned the rock and he is now taking refuge on this tree. Wow, doesn't this look so similar to like an anime or something?
Suspicious.
Can someone please explain to me why the drums are so unbearably loud in this scene? Now, unfortunately, the overcompensating drums and the lack of triangle are not the biggest problems with the music in this scene. When the score was created for the original film, it was done so in a way where the music and visuals greatly complemented each other. Notice how the harp instrument changes pitch from high to low as Zazu swoops downward. And here, the string instruments move downward in pitch as Mufasa and Scar slide down the cliff. In this shot, we have a high angle of the wildebeest running down the cliff, followed by a low angle. And the music complements this by having high instruments descending in pitch, followed by low instruments descending in pitch. This is a beautiful symphony showing all of the elements of filmmaking working together to create a single experience. And then now we hear the higher instruments in the orchestra Zazu, bird flying, there's a psychological association with higher pitch. Zazu noticing Simba. The musical cue that's happening is Zazu's reaction without dialogue. It's like a Looney Tunes score, basically, right? Those notes are reflecting what Zazu is experiencing as a character. Now, those same notes are in here, but they don't mean anything. Because John did whatever the fuck he wanted, and Hans kept essentially the same score with the same parts of the soundtrack that were originally written to express specific things happening in the film. But now those specific parts of the soundtrack are also in this film, but they don't mean anything anymore. They could have used that same musical cue that maybe Simba loses his grip for a second, right? That could be an effective way to use that pre-existing musical cue, but John doesn't understand why the music is there and how it was used. He doesn't understand the original film in any fucking way whatsoever. And so he's incapable of making those decisions because he doesn't even know that that was there in the first place.
There on that tree!
As soon as the shot changes, the music changes. The same music is now here. The same cue is there, but it's just like you went from Zazu flying to Zazu flying. You can't just take a pre-existing song and smack it on your shitty fucking film as a goddamn Band-Aid, hoping that it absolves the entire thing of any sort of criticism. Holy God! Now, what's extra confusing about this is that they actually wound up changing several parts of the score anyway. In the original film, when Zazu flies to Simba, the tone of the score is urgent and perilous.
Zazu, help me! Your father is on the way! Hold on!
But apparently John doesn't want anybody to think that these characters are in any kind of danger, so we get the tone of a triumphant savior instead. Shit's going down and it's scary versus, how nice, help is on the way, I feel so much better now, thank you. This exact same issue exists when Mufasa dives into the stampede to save Simba. In the original film, the tone is terrifying and the emotions of the music imply that there's so much at stake. The score in this scene is incredibly powerful, and it emphasizes the desperation of Mufasa trying to save his son. He is trying to save his child from certain death, and the music communicates this through its emotional intensity. But apparently Jon Favreau doesn't want anybody to believe Simba's actually in danger, so we get more triumphant bullshit instead! Why are you playing this song? It's supposed to play at the end of the movie when Simba stands up to Scar. You know, when the triumphant music is actually justified because there's so much that's happened over the course of the film that's led up to that moment? Like it's some kind of great victory or achievement or something, maybe? Like a triumph, John? What the fuck is your obsession with these triumphant moments, John? You can't just slap it anywhere you want. It has to be earned, John. Why? Remember when Simba went flying into the air and then Mufasa caught him? Nope. Lions can't catch things in real life. It's unrealistic. Let's just do this instead. This'll work much better.
Come to me, son. Jump.
Jump. Oh, cool. Mufasa sounds like Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah!
All right, now let's take a look at how Simba reacts in this scene. Whoa, what? Huh? What? What? Huh? What? You can't just have a quick shot and be over with it, because then how would you see the dolly movement in the camera? Remember, we filmed this with real camera equipment in VR, remember?
Go.
Each of these is a handmade shot. Just the human emotion in this sequence right here of the struggle to climb up the hill and how the rocks tumble down and how the backlight makes the fur glow, how the earth is colored there and how it's still graphic but still accurate to what is really there. The emotion in the face of of young Simba, even though he can't frown, even though he can't make a face, to see so much expression, and of course the music.
Yeah, there's totally so much emotion in the scene, from the color of the dirt and shit. Now I am totally behind the idea of using filmmaking techniques like color and lighting to help communicate emotions, but it's important to understand that these techniques often work best when they're helping to communicate emotions, not replace emotions. If you're making a dramatic musical with talking and singing lions, then it's probably a good idea to use these techniques as icing on the cake, not a substitute for the cake itself. A great example of these techniques being properly used would be, I don't know, the original fucking movie. When Simba first notices the stampede coming towards him, the lighting on his face goes darker. Now there's a logical reason for this in the film, as the dust clouds and birds are now blocking out the sunlight. In the camera work, there is a simulated dolly zoom, otherwise known as the vertigo effect, and despite Simba getting darker, his eyes are still fairly bright as they are the focus of the shot. The color, lighting, camera work, and music are all a part of the icing being used to help communicate the emotions found in the cake of this film being the story and characters. And despite how much Jon Favreau continues to gloat about the technology of this film and just how much emotion is communicated through it, it seems as though every time there's a legitimate opportunity to actually utilize this, he doesn't take it. And you don't even need to do anything cartoony or unrealistic like the color and lighting choices in Be Prepared, how it starts out green to symbolize greed and envy, then changes yellow to imitate old newsreel, and finishes with red to symbolize power and evil. We get it. If it's fun and interesting, it's unrealistic and you don't want to do it. Whatever. But what's stopping you from doing something like this?
There's a neat lighting thing going on here too, because whenever you see young Simba, he's out in the sunlight and looking out over the vast Pride Lands, and then whenever you see Scar, he's under the overhang of the cliff and kind of in shadows.
What's so unrealistic about that, John? Why are they both in the shade? Why is the dark and shadowy place not very dark at all? Why is the stampede scene so bright when it easily could have been darker and actually meant something? Why are you even talking about color and lighting when you're not actually using it to express anything?
Just the human emotion in how the rocks tumble down and how the backlight makes the fur glow.
Alright, I think it's pretty clear that Jon Favreau has no interest in actually utilizing these filmmaking techniques as a way to help communicate emotion. Instead, they are only used as opportunities to showcase the film as an over-glorified tech demo.
It's a little thing, but that simulation of the dust, of the sand flying, that backlit sand, is so well done. And it's those little details that we concentrate on that actually contribute to the feeling of the movie. It's those little details.
That's all this is about. Hey, remember all the emotions that you felt when watching the original film? Well, we made this movie in VR. Now, what's extra embarrassing about John's obsessive focus over the technology of this film is that the first film actually was a technological breakthrough for animation.
To create the effect of the wildebeest avoiding one another, we had to write special programs for that. So we thought of each wildebeest as a little magnet, and the magnets sort of push away from one another. We had to come up with a way that our animators could control the behavior of hundreds of beasts. So we came up with this idea of a simulation, sort of playing follow the leader. These bugs sort of show us what the simulation is. Then the next step is to match it to the background. We've built a grid, a three-dimensional grid that matches the perspective and the look of a background that's going to be in the scene. On that grid, we place one of these simulations where each of those bugs now gets replaced with a full running, galloping, hopping wildebeest.
The reason why the first film didn't treat the technology as its selling point is because it wasn't the focus of the film. It was there to help communicate the emotions. It was there to help complement the story and the characters. It is not there to brag about how realistic it looks. The stampede scene in this film is one of the most beautiful and impressive animations animation sequences of all time. But The Lion King 2019 is an upgrade. It fixes the original. Don't you? This film has fur glow. The original film doesn't have fur glow. The absolute audacity of treating this film as though it fixes or upgrades the original. Apparently Disney thought it was a fucking masterpiece with how many awards they were trying to get out of it. Check out their now deleted Oscars campaign that I archived. Disney's The Lion King, for your consideration. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Actor Donald Glover? This is real, by the way. Best Supporting Actor Seth Rogen, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Billy Eichner, John Cotty, John Oliver, Eric Andre, Keegan-Michael Key, J.D. McCrary, Best Supporting Actress Alfre Woodard, Florence Kasumba, Shahadi Wright-Joseph, and Beyonce Knowles Carter. They just listed everyone in their cast for awards categories that have literally never nominated anyone for voice acting. And the first ever acting nomination to ever be given to a voice actor goes to Beyonce. Woo! Are you fucking kidding me, Disney? Best cinematography, best film editing, best production design, best sound mixing, best sound editing, best visual effects, best original song, Spirit by Beyonce, and Never Too Late by Elton John and Tim Rice. What kind of movie do they think they made? This is real! It seems as though the only category they didn't try to get a nomination for was Best Animated Feature. Fucking incredible. Anyway, where were we? Oh yeah, Mufasa's gonna die now.
I can't hold on much longer.
Shut up. End of the line for you. Yes?
Now, this particular scene was endlessly mocked on Twitter and elsewhere. Everybody knows it's bad, but I think it's still important to break down the degree to which they absolutely butchered this sequence. In the original Lion King, the cliff was flat and there was nothing Mufasa could hang on to. If he stays still, he starts sliding down, so he's forced to continue climbing upward. In the remake, he only ever slides down as he's climbing, and despite the surface he's climbing on being more breakable, it never really feels like he's forced to continue upward. He could honestly just keep his body weight towards the cliff and just chill there until the stampede passes. At no point do we ever feel the same sense of danger or urgency as the original, and this might also be exacerbated by how needlessly long and drawn out they make this scene. In the original film, we see Mufasa escape the stampede, and then we see Simba climb up the cliff, and then bam, we're back with Mufasa and Scar's right there. In the remake, we see Mufasa escape the stampede, and then we see Simba climb up the cliff, and then we see Mufasa climb more up the cliff, and then we see Simba climb more up the cliff, and then we see Mufasa climb more up the cliff, and then we see Simba climb more up the cliff. You see Simba, he's climbing because he can't see his daddy and he's looking for a good vantage point, and oh, you see, this is a perspective shot from Simba, and you can see from his perspective that he cannot see Mufasa. The proof that this is unnecessary is in the original film. Nobody was confused here, so why even do this? Next, let's pay attention to the dialogue.
Scar! Brother, help me! Scar! Help me!
How do you manage to have a character deliver two lines right next to each other that sound like they're completely different voices?
Scar, help me!
Scar, help me! Oh, wait a minute. This is probably just another instance where they repurposed an alternate take from the original film.
Are any of James Earl Jones's lines originally from the movie? Did you get his original voice? I know he came back and did it. Is it all new?
So we had the old files and even outtakes from before, but we had it to know, but I had talked to people who did Rogue One from Skywalker Sound. They're like, no, he still got the pipes and he really brought it. And I think for our version of it, I think there might be one yell, because I think there might be, but it was honestly to sweeten like something like that. But we decided early on that we were gonna go with the new sound for him, and it works well. So it'll be interesting to do a side-by-side comparison.
Scar! Help me! Sarabi and I didn't see where the
I feel like this is an old take too. I feel like they used a lot more old takes than they're admitting. This sounds like a 94 Mufasa.
Sarabi and I.
Yeah, he's full of shit. John's full of shit.
Sarabi and I didn't see where the presentation of
That's 94. That's 94. John, you're so full of shit. That's 94. Listen to like some of the other lines.
Is that a challenge?
That's like, this is 2019. This is definitely 1994, James.
Sarabi and I didn't see where the presentation of...
The voice is so different. Oh, God. I'm trying to be done. I'm trying to export a video, not add on to it. They used it for his introduction. That's so embarrassing. That's awful. Oh yeah, we maybe use like one yell to sweeten it. Go fuck yourself. You're lying. You're a liar. Why do you lie? Why do you lie to people, John? This is also 94.
Turn your back on me, Scar. One day, it'll be my...
Oh, it's so different. It's so different. They're such assholes. Why? This is so awful. Yep, this is a totally polished and finished film, everybody. We really fixed the original, didn't we? Also, why did you get rid of the word brother? Unlike the beginning of the film where reinforcing that information might seem like exposition, there's an actual emotional purpose to that line. It's almost like John doesn't understand human emotion or something.
Long live the king.
Damn, Mufasa got booped. Do you think that they tried to get Chiwetel to deliver the line like Jeremy Irons did and then just gave up? Like, yeah, we're gonna have to take this a completely different direction. Let's just add a face boop and then it doesn't matter how he sounds.
Oh, wow! That is relatable!
Let's just ignore how awful Mufasa sounds here because Simba really steals the show. Remember when I said J.D. McCrary has trouble letting go of his ego? Was this seriously the best take? Simba's supposed to be witnessing his father's death here and it sounds no different than a cat meowing. Next, let's pay attention to the visuals. The lack of facial expression is obviously a big one here, but there's actually quite a few important visual details that were not reflected in the remake. In the original film, the scene is darkly lit with plenty of dust clouding up each shot. In the remake, it's just normal daytime and there's no dust except the very bottom of the gorge. Why would you communicate emotion through lighting when you can communicate fur glow instead? Just pay attention to how Scar's shadow slowly takes over the space that Mufasa is occupying. As mentioned before, shadows are commonly used to symbolize darkness and evil. This is a visual metaphor to communicate the evil that triumphs over good in this scene. It is within this moment that Scar reveals the true evil that he had been hiding from Mufasa this entire time. Just moments ago, he was calling out to his brother for help, but now in this moment of confusion and vulnerability, he begins to piece things together. And in this shot where he starts to see Scar as the true evil he always has been, the color and lighting fade darker to communicate this, with the attention being on Mufasa's eyes. The external visuals are communicating what's happening internally with the character. But what does the remake do? Nothing! There's no shadow from Scar, there's no close-up of Mufasa's eyes, there's no color or lighting changes to communicate emotions from the characters. You know, any one of these techniques sound like they would be pretty fucking useful in a film where you've decided to omit facial expression, because yeah, facial expressions are not the only way to communicate emotion in the language of filmmaking. So why didn't you use any of them? I'm sorry, what? I didn't hear anything. I was too busy focusing on the fur glow and the dirt-colored dirt. We can't have Scar's shadow go over top of Mufasa, because then we wouldn't be able to light it from the side, and you gotta light it from the side if you want to have that fur glow. You know, the important stuff. Don't blame me, guys. I was just focusing on making the movie look as realistic as possible. Like how when lions are falling, their teeth move independently of the rest of their face? You know, like real life, like a documentary. In the original movie, the shot of Mufasa's death continues as though it's coming out of Simba's eye. It is really obviously a way to symbolize how this moment is burned into his eyes forever. To show the death and zoom out from his eye is to emphasize his perspective. It is about the impact of that moment on this character and how he could do nothing but watch. But no, this looks good too, right guys? The first thing we see is Simba looking like he's gonna sneeze. And then we get this wonky-ass camera movement. It starts slow and then changes its mind and then speeds up and slows down again. The speed of the camera movement in the original film started fast as a way to emphasize the intensity of that moment in Simba's perspective, and it only slows down at the very end, communicating a feeling of reluctant acceptance over what he had just seen. The emotions in the camera work are reflecting the emotions of the character. The camera movement isn't just, hey, this looks cool. It is motivated by the emotions in the film. It seems like every opportunity he could be using the camera work to communicate emotion, he just communicates spectacle instead. No fucking wonder the end result of this film is just an over-glorified tech demo. And last but not least, let's talk about the music during Mufasa's death. In each film, the soundtrack plays a musical chord when Scar digs his claws into Mufasa. Now, even if you're not musically savvy and can't tell what the individual notes of each chord are, you should at least be able to hear the difference in terms of emotion. The notes being played in the original film are ones that are kind of difficult to discern. I'm not an expert in music terminology, so I'm lacking the vocabulary to describe exactly what type of chord it is, but what I can tell you is that it is a very unique and unconventionally sounding chord that evokes emotions of both fear and confusion. Fear because of the minor chord elements we can hear, and confusion because of the unconventional and difficult to interpret nature of the chord. And this chord is perfect in this moment because it accurately represents the emotions that Mufasa is experiencing. It is in this moment where he first experiences the level of betrayal that Scar is truly capable of. And as Mufasa is forced to quickly piece things together in his mind, we hear the string instruments in the background increasing in volume with a crescendo, and as soon as Scar throws Mufasa off the cliff, we hear a simple B-flat minor chord followed by an E-flat minor chord. And these chords are perfect to represent the conclusive fear and betrayal that Mufasa is forced to experience. When we go from a confusing but unconventional chord into simple but minor chords, what the music is essentially doing is providing a question and an answer. And the question is so important because it communicates Mufasa's denial over what is happening. He is confused and does not want to believe that his brother would murder him. And the moment he is forced off the cliff is the moment he is forced to accept reality, and thus the music reflects the conclusive answer to the question. But in The Lion King 2019, there is no question. The first chord that is played is not unconventional, it's not difficult to decipher. There is no confusion in the emotions represented by this chord. There is only a conclusive minor chord with a slow trill in the string instruments to imply tension, so the implied emotions are just fear and tension with no confusion. There is nothing to represent Mufasa's denial or acceptance over the situation. It does a poor job at communicating the emotions of the characters. There's no shadow engulfing Mufasa. Everything's way too fucking bright. They don't do shit about his eyes or his perspective, which is particularly insane because there are extra lines of dialogue new to this film that specifically point out the look in Mufasa's eyes during this scene.
Saw the fear in his eyes.
They used it as a plot device so that Sarabi could be the one to figure out that Scar is guilty.
Then how did you see the look in Mufasa's eyes?
What look? There's nothing there. It is a soulless void of shallow and cynical corporate bullshit. Well, my name is Jon Favreau, and I'm here to say hello. My movie's bad, made Adam mad, but at least it had for glow. Until next time, John! Well, I guess that is part 1 of The Lion King YMS. I'm pulling a Dune. Part 2 is not going to be out for a while. I'm not even giving a date. It's definitely not going to be this year. Every time I try to make something out by a date, it takes longer. So I'm not even gonna say when, but it's definitely coming out. It's gonna take a while though, because I am definitely not working on it right away. I'm gonna take a bit of a break. There's all these other projects on my channel, like my list videos. You'll notice that I haven't even gotten to do my 2016 list. That's been pushed to the side. You'll notice that there are reviews like for Old and Spiral that should have been made. Those got pushed to the side because of this. Yeah, the idea of what's the word? Production hell. That doesn't even begin to describe what went on with this video. For those who don't know, I know that I've explained this a million times, but the information doesn't get to everybody. I got tendonitis. So in both arms, well, this one's, I think it's like completely healed. This one keeps coming back, but I am right-handed, so that makes sense. Essentially, I overworked myself, and through mouse clicking and typing, I strained my tendons, and it got very, very bad to the point where I couldn't use my arm, so I was like, I'll just use my left arm for everything. And then I got tendonitis in my left arm, so then I was unable to use both my arms, so I thought, oh, how can I keep working? How can I keep getting things done without editing, without mouse clicking? And so I was like, oh, well, I'll just catch up on a bunch of these movies and shows that I've needed to catch up on because, you know, I worked a bit on my 2016 list, which, you know, I'm already pretty far through. And so I spent like a month on the couch watching through shit, being like, okay, well, at least I'm getting something, doing something productive, even if I can't be mouse clicking and editing for this amount of time. And because I spent a month on the couch, I gave myself sciatica. So that was 3 of my limbs out of commission, plus the only working limb was one I dislocated my knee in like 2012. So that wasn't even good to start with. So I just got like completely fucked. Tendonitis is something that might be genetic. My mom has had issues with it. You'll notice in my After Earth video, she was wearing something on her arm to help with her tendonitis problems. She basically can't even she can't even use her wrists at this point. And so I want to try and be preventative in the sense that, like, okay, well, I can at least try and prevent myself from getting that far. So in order to finish this part 1, what I've had to wind up doing is obviously I had to take a bit of time off to let my tendons heal. But since it keeps coming back in my right tendon, which is my dominant hand, and I can't just switch everything off to my left hand because otherwise the same thing will happen again and I'll just get tendonitis in both arms and be fucked. So yeah, I'm trying to do like some time on, some time off with editing. Obviously, there's other parts of my job that I can do that aren't editing, so I'm trying to balance that as much as possible. I'm trying to outsource a lot of the editing. These big projects, like this YMS review, this Lion King thing, I am so picky and I am so... the editing process is so important to me because that's where I discover a lot of the jokes that I'm going to make. That's where I discover a lot of the issues with the film. Sometimes it'll just be while I'm editing where it's like, oh, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense, or wait a minute, like this part looks really fucked up. And so yeah, like so much of the personality comes through the editing too, and so it's very difficult for me to let go of the reins with these larger projects. And you know, the quickies and a lot of the other like smaller scale, like just saw it in theaters type reviews, those are being edited by somebody else. So those have been outsourced for a while. You know, obviously it still takes time to watch the movie, record the movie right, you know, check over the editing. I'm managing like 10 different channels. We got some new things going on since we got the YMS Highlights channel. That is being managed by somebody else. We got the YMS Clips channel being managed by somebody else, but I still like watch over, you know, a lot of the clips and footage, so that takes time. But check these out. I'm just trying to promote them because I don't do like these cutaway to, and now time for our sponsor sort of things because I feel like that makes the video worse. I do ad breaks now. Those aren't too bad for me. I've succumbed to that because what is it, like half of my top 8 videos on my channel are demonetized. Sorry if this is a bit of a ramble. I'm trying to communicate a lot at once. what the fuck was I talking about? Oh yeah, I was trying to promote some of the things I'm doing. We got the YMS Clips channel. We got a mukbang channel now, which is not like, I'm not doing anything extra for it. I'm just taking some parts of me eating on stream, and someone else is uploading them to a YouTube channel. If you're interested in that sort of thing, check it out. If you're not, don't check it out. A lot of people got really offended when I mentioned this previously. I don't know why. It's literally just, hey, I'm eating anyway, and a lot of the time that's on stream because I do editing streams. And so when I take my food break, I just do it on stream, and so why not? I mean, it's not any extra work or effort or time on my part for that one. That's for sure. I'm on Cameo now. I've decided to do a Cameo. So if you want me to surprise your best friends for their birthdays or something, then hit me up there. What else we got? I think I've been ad-libbing this entire thing, but I think I took some notes of things that I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, I have a TikTok now. Someone else is managing that. I'm not running the TikTok account, but people are like, yeah, you should be on TikTok so you can just market to the Zoomers or something. So if you're on TikTok, go to TikTok. We got my gaming channel, which we've got a bunch of different editors working on that. 2 gaming channels, actually. There's the one where everything's edited. There's one where it's just the direct uploads from the streams. All of the gaming content is recorded on Sundays. I consider that to be my day off. So I take my free time and I turn it into content. That's why there's so many different things going on. We got a music channel. There was an album that I was working on for about 4 years. And the songs within that album were written over the course of 10 years. So it's basically like a fucking 14-year-long project if you think about it. But yeah, it's like a chronological expression of just me growing over time from the age of like 15 to 25. I'm 31 now. I just turned 31. That's fucking crazy. But yeah, I started this Lion King review in like 2019. And we've gotten to Mufasa's death because I got tendinitis, because I'm juggling a bunch of different projects at once, because it's a gigantic fucking project that I find difficult to outsource most of the work onto someone else for. I'm trying to make it so that I'm not overworking myself, because I have now very much experienced the downside to overworking. I used to be, when I was making my Kimba video, that was one where I was like still crunching. That was one where I was still like pulling all-nighters, you know, when I'm like close to the end of the video, I'm like, oh fuck, it just, you know, I'll just keep going, it's almost done. But then I realized like there's so much more to do about it, and then I just wind up like fucking up my sleep. I'm trying to stop being that type of person and work normal hours that normal people with normal jobs have, so that I can function properly and not hurt myself. And that is a very difficult transition for me to make. It is something that I'm like very much learning to do. So I am forcing myself to take time away from the editing parts while still getting things done. Yeah, it's a very stressful and very unfortunate circumstance, but that's fucking reality. It sucks, and I would love to be, you know, I would love to still be in my 20s being this like editing machine where I just stay up forever and don't do anything social. But I have to take the fucking hint when I give myself tendinitis in both of my arms, and then continue working and give myself sciatica. The sciatica is basically gone. Left arm feels great. Nothing wrong with the left arm. I don't know what it would feel like if I kept going, you know, if I started editing again with it, but right arm is on and off. And I now have a personal trainer. I'm like getting exercise now. You know, that's something that I'm like forcing myself to incorporate into my life is, you know, joint conditioning and actually, you know, like being active. That was something I wasn't really doing before. That's very important for me to do, especially when my job is just like sitting sitting and clicking buttons the entire time. I'm trying not to die early. I almost forgot to mention, I usually mention this at the beginning, but I was like, fuck, I better talk about, why this took so fucking long and why the next part's gonna take so fucking long too. We've got some lovely people over here. We've got some lovely people that donate on Patreon. Your name can be at the end credits of part 2 for $1 a month. And, I just, whenever I export the thing when it's there. So if you're a patron during the month of the part 2 being released, then it'll be there. We've also done the Patreon credits for larger, like, Admin Pals series, like the, the big, like, 13 Reasons Why things. I might start incorporating the Patreon credits into more things. I don't know. Ugh. But yeah, lots of stress. And even without tendinitis, I should probably add, even without tendinitis, this project was like absolutely ridiculous. There was like a weird glitching issue because of like, I guess because my Blu-ray ripping software is so old, or maybe it was just how it was like interacting with my conversion software, but like a lot of the footage had these weird like visual glitches in them, like the footage of The Lion King, and it was very difficult to fix because it wasn't showing up until it was like exported. While it was in the timeline, it was showing up in like completely different places. So like I would render something and then I'm saying a lot of words that probably a lot of you don't understand. Either way, I had to do a bunch of nonsense and basically re-edit most of the video. Take parts that I had already been done with and then grab an entirely new file of the film and then replace all of those visuals with it. Blah, 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 blah. A lot of this review has a lot to do with like music. I'm very passionate about that. Which is why I don't want to like destroy my arms and turn out to be my mom with tendinitis, and so I can continue playing instruments too. Like that's something that I don't want to absolutely screw myself. I have to recognize when there's like something seriously wrong medically that I have to like address. So I'm going against what I would like to have happen and forcing myself to not be as crazy when it comes to work. I know it's ridiculous, but that's what has happened, and I have to accept reality. I am rambling forever. I am the rambling machine right now. Anyway, this movie is legitimately the worst movie ever made of all time. For me, it really is. There's no other movie in existence that I could talk this long about, because the ways in which it is so horribly wrong, it's like infinite. I think I'm done discovering things about what they fucked up, and it's never ending. It's never ending. It's ridiculous. John? No hard feelings, John. A lot of my angry voice calling out your name and your things about the movie, that's most of it is just done from an expressive comedic purpose. If you're watching this video, it doesn't matter if he's in Hollywood and he's like a celebrity that's like too big or whatever. Like, even if it's punching up, don't punch. Okay, just don't fucking don't bug him on Twitter or whatever. Like, just fuck. If I catch you doing that, you're banned. I'll ban you. That's the most I can do, I guess. But yeah, I'm very passionate about the original movie, obviously. Very passionate about my experiences with art and communicating how I feel about a piece of media that's affected me to this degree. What else was I gonna say? I had a note. I had a note. Yeah. Oh yeah. Not only was there a bunch of video I had to redo from the glitches, there was a bunch of audio I had to do. I had to re-record like a shit ton of my review because I don't have like feedback of my own microphone going into these headphones. I don't have like a proper like studio setup. I know that that's something I could probably do, but this is like my streaming setup, And so there was one point in time for like however many weeks worth of recording where I had adjusted the gain on my audio interface slightly higher, and I didn't realize that that was making my audio peak. And so for like a bunch of my streams, my audio just sounded like really peaky, and a bunch of the voiceover that I recorded for the review, it was peaking, but only on like certain words, and that's why I didn't catch it right away. And it was like only when I had recorded so much that I started catching it. And I was like, well, if I'm gonna call out if the audio peaking in the movie, then I should probably fix these lines. So I had to re-record a bunch of lines that were already done. That took a while. It's just there's a gigantic difference between this type of project and then like a lot of my other videos where there's different types of reviews that I make. Like a review, the word review doesn't mean anything on my channel because it's just like so many different things, right? Like what is this review compared to like a quickie review, you know? Like there's entirely different things. Going over like fucking literally like, what was it? Like 40 plus hours of like interview footage, and then not just going over it, but like organizing it and like organizing it in a way where I can like come back to it and reference it and use the clips when I need it and decide as I'm going through it what the points are that I'm trying to make about the film and how those clips are going to incorporate into the video I'm making, and trimming things down from like 40 something hours to like 8 hours of footage. Like it's such a different process than a lot of the other videos on my channel. So like no fucking shit, these videos take longer. So now with addressing why it's taken so long, why part 2 is going to take so fucking long, and my issues with trying to outsource more of what I do. The reason why I didn't make my old and Spiral review is because I'm like, well, that deserves something a bit more than just like a saw it in theaters, like quickie type thing, right? And so what I'm going to try and do here is, while I'm working on my 2016 list and the old video and the Spiral video, what I'm going to try and do is figure out a way to make some sort of like a hybrid video, something that's in between my like Jigsaw review where I was like, oh, I'm just in theaters sort of thing. Somewhere in between that and this gigantic Lion King review, where maybe I can still outsource a lot of the editing, but still on my end go through a bunch of like interview footage and behind the scenes shit. And I've already started doing that for the Spiral stuff. You can see some of that on the highlights channel, by the way. Oh yeah, I got a podcast too. You should check out my podcast. That's something I forgot to plug. But yeah, so I'm trying to let go of my stubborn ideas of needing to have such a tight grip on this type of content and be able to help myself not hurt myself by letting a bit more of that be outsourced, but still have it be more personal and more more of a deep dive than like some of the other videos I made. So I'm trying to figure it out the best I can. There's got to be a way that I can do this. Otherwise, I mean, like, there's a lot of content on my channel, like the Adam and Pals videos and the commentary, where it's like, oh, I'm still creating content. I just don't have to spend that long on it. You know, fuck, there's so many YouTube channels out here that like play video games for like fucking 3 hours a week and are like more successful than what I'm doing. And I'm like, I shouldn't compare myself to, everybody compares themselves to others. You know, many of you are comparing yourselves to me. So it's just a natural human thing. Where do I go? What am I doing? I'm just, this is me. What else didn't I mention? I'm selling some Blu-rays this month and next month. Some things I own in Blu-ray format, and then there's a 4K, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna get the 4K instead, so I sell my old Blu-rays. Some things I have no interest in seeing again. Some things, it's like, oh, there was a region B and now there's a region A, so I get the region A even though I have a region-free Blu-ray player. I'd like to be able to bring a Blu-ray to a friend's house and not bring my Blu-ray player along. So yeah, I'm selling some old Blu-rays, some old video games. I guess I'll leave the link in the description, or check my Twitter. The first, 100 of them will be, by the time this video is published, those will be gone. But sometime in May, I will be scheduling a lot of other things to be sold on eBay as well. They're signed by me. I'm signing them. So if you want one of those, I'm selling them. Check my Twitter. I'll be that's where I'll be posting it. I might post it somewhere else too. But yeah, the April ones are gonna be gone by the time this video's up. Oh boy. So yeah, Pulling a Dune. I don't know when part 2 is coming out. But that's reality, and I can't fucking change it. There's nothing that I can do. My alternative is I'll just work extra hard trying to get and then get tendonitis again. Well, I mean, I still have it, but flare it up so bad that I can't, that I have to take more time off. That's shit sucks. I'm getting old. Synecdoche. That'll be, don't worry, that isn't abandoned. I made that very clear in part 5, by the way, that it's not being abandoned no matter how long it takes. I made that very clear. So, based on how everything else goes, based on my 2016 list and my old and my Spiral review, based on how those things go, then I might, if those things don't take forever, I might do Synecdoche Part 6 before The Lion King Part 2, but you might see that after. I don't know. I'm trying to get things out. There's not enough time. If I could duplicate the amount of time in a day, do you know how fast these things would come out? Does that sentence make sense? Thank you for your support on Patreon and elsewhere. I'm trying to make my 30s not painful. So if everybody can be patient, most of you have been. I think it's just a minority of people who are like, what? Is Adam done making videos? Wow, looks like you've moved from actually working to just producing reacting content. It's okay, well, clearly you're talking about the highlights channel where you see me reacting to Generation Hope videos, right? And it's where do you think those reaction videos come from? Those come from my editing streams. I'm editing during those streams, and then if I have some free time at the end of it, I go okay, here's 30 minutes of Gen Hope before I go to bed. After I spend the whole day editing. Go fuck yourself. Anyway, some people apparently needed to hear that, but, shit's fucked, man. I'm rambling, and I think I've communicated everything I want to. Stay tuned. Don't ask about when part 2 is coming out. Don't ask, because I don't have an answer. Don't ask about it. You're banned. We're all banned. I'm banning myself from my house. I love you all so much. Thank you for your support. We're gonna get through this. And at one point in time, in the distant future, my Lion King video will be finished. Remember that when I say it started in 2019, then the whole Kimba video happened, because that was supposed to be a part of the Lion King video. So it feels like even though I released my Kimba video, and even though I'm releasing this video now, it feels like I've literally just been working on the one, it feels like it's all a part of the same project, because it kind of is. And I've been working on it since the end of 2019. And I've injured myself doing it. Okay, I'm repeating myself. Thank you, everybody. I love you so much. Bye-bye.
That's why we have classics, really. So it's very hard to do classic. In the movie business, the same.
Same thing.
How many people redo the movies?
Who would want to make Lion King? Oh.